It's 7:30. The first piece of business is Fred Coombs, Century Mill Estate subdivision. It's a lot release request. The board to review a request to release lots 25, 37, and 45 on Old Stone Circle. Hey, Fred. Come on up, but keep some distance.
I will. How's everybody doing tonight?
How you doing?
I'm all right. So there were a couple lot releases that I had requested to have tonight. I really only need one of them now at this current point.
Okay.
It's lot 37.
Which one, 37?
37, sorry.
So, my memory was foggy, and the last time we talked about this, it goes back to June.
Yeah.
So, we asked Erica to put together a refresher going back to June when we talked about a bunch of lot releases, 25, 26, 27, 33, 35, 36, 37, 42, and 43.
Right, and we had released ones that we had under agreement, is what.
Yep. We released some, and we did so, we had a punch list of items.
Yes.
And we had them numbered, and you saw them. They were in an email to you dated 7/6/16.
Yes.
And we required completion of items, for brevity, I won't go through what they are, but 1, 2, 3, 4, and 7 from that email.
Okay.
And I've got notes from Erica that they were effectively all completed. Item 3, which was removing sand at the head wall of outlet of detention basin 9C, was done, but the problem has come back. Accumulated sediment, she says, needs to be removed again.
Yep. I think I know what the issue is, but we're gonna figure it out.
Okay,
Two possible issues, but we'll figure it out.
okay.
Can I ask what the issue is?
When we originally cleaned out the bottom, one of the guys may have removed the filter fabric that was covering the secondary outlet pipe. So there's a bypass valve, and that bypass valve might be open. So they have to have the guy that installed it to take a look at it. He should be freed up next week to actually take a peek at it and see what's going on with it. I think the valve might be open, and when our guys clean the bottom out, they might have taken the filter fabric covering the stone that blocks the outlet pipe out.
So now it's just going straight up.
Right. And it's not a lot of sediment that's collecting, but you can definitely see some silt inside the pipe, which leads us to believe that the valve is open.
Okay.
It's nothing like it was before where there was actually an amount of sediment there, but there's a coating on the bottom, so we want to check that out and see what, if one or both, are the causes of it.
Okay.
We, at the time, denied the release of the other lots, 25, 26, 27, 37, and 42,
Yeah.
3 of which are the subject here, one of which is the time-sensitive subject.
Yes.
Due to items 5, 6, 8, 9, and 10. And my own thoughts, I'm happy to hear what other members of the board think. The item 3 that needs to be done again, plus a couple of these that seem like they're relatively light lifting.
Do I not have a copy of the paper?
I'm going to show it to you. I'll get to my point first.
All right.
My thought is to suggest we approve the releases that you need now.
Of the one lot?
I'd be fine with 3, but if we can talk about whatever the board wants to do.
I just want to
Sure.
know what you're thinking.
Simply subject to getting some of these items done. I don't think necessarily, in my mind, all of them need to be done. What I would recommend is the item 3 that we just talked about, addressing that.
Yep.
Item 5 is installing gas traps onto catch basin on Old Stone Circle. And
All the gas traps have been installed. I need to pull out the silt sacks for Fred to inspect them.
And that's effectively what Erica is saying.
Okay.
So that seems like a relatively light lifting item. I would include that
light.
Item 6.
Yeah, they're not like.
They're not light.
Compared to some of the other tasks, it's, yes.
Item number 6, and we'll show you this list, I'll flip it around in a second. Drainage item number 3 through 8, construction access to detention basin 9D, drainage structure inverts and steps all to be completed. And Erica makes mention to the fact that, there's simply steps need to be finished.
Yep, those are light lifting, and we can definitely take care of that.
And then item 9, send approved plans to fire department for stone wall in place of bollards at Woodstone Circle Cistern. Is that ministerial? Is that
That is
documents?
100% my fault, not having time to draw up a drawing for them for a replacement.
Okay.
Absolutely 100% falls on my shoulders.
And the newest item that we see in what I believe is the newest inspection report talks about additional erosion that needs to,
They're being delivered tomorrow. I actually printed out the delivery slip, but in my haste to get here, I left it
Okay.
sitting right on the printer. So it's being delivered to our site at some point tomorrow. It will
Okay.
be installed Friday.
so what I'd like to do, I'll flip this around and show it to you, and I'd love for Fred Hamley to come up and take a look at it.
Come on, buddy.
Question.
Put your gas mask on. My suggestion would be to release the 3 of them, subject to confirming that those items are done. There's a couple other ones that are still on that list. I know one of them, we've talked about a lot, the ADA.
Yeah, the ADR, there's 4 of them. Yeah, I'm not doing those. We should have done those. There's no reason we shouldn't have done them during good weather, but they didn't get done, and we can't keep them.
Okay. Those items that, Fred, I'll show them to you, so you can see it as we're talking about it. But those items that I didn't mention, I don't necessarily feel like we need to hold up for the release of these 3 lots. So, Fred Hamley, I effectively was saying, these have been done, and these were the conditions precedent to releasing the lots that we already released. They were completed, but again, this issue has come back. And then my thought to releasing the new lots is to bang out 5, 6, 9, and the new erosion. So 5, completed but needs your okay, according to Erica. 6, steps need to be finished. 9, the paperwork to the fire department. And then the additional erosion that you noted in your most recent report.
Yeah, I have, sorry, I don't want to breathe on anybody. I have 600 feet of walls and siltfence being delivered tomorrow from contractor supply at some point during the day tomorrow. It's coming out of Rhode Island. The original guy I hired to deliver them never showed up and hasn't returned my calls. I have more coming tomorrow, and it will be installed.
I think, interested to hear what your general thoughts are, anything you want to talk about, but any color you can give us. But my big question is there anything that is not on that list that we just talked about that is a pressing, this really needs to get done, this really should have been done, this is a safety issue, this is a hazard type of event?
The only thing would be the handicap ramps
Okay,
that you don't have, didn't take it down, you had it on, so I'm saying. So other than that, no.
okay, okay. And the ramps are something that we've tried, can that get done in this type of weather?
Because there's pavement involved, no.
No.
Okay.
Can I ask with regard to the erosion sediment, why, what's going on? Why are you having 600 linear feet of storm walls being delivered tomorrow?
There's piles by Pond 9C that are washing down into the pond. And so we need to, because they're stockpiles, we want to put the erosion controls not only at the toe of slope, and then a second set of wattles. There's wattles on the second set.
Is it right?
Down closer to the pond.
Is it,
So
is
kind of
anything,
doubling up.
okay, is there any, what's going to be the use, I guess, what's your winter construction looking like with regard to site stuff and your piles? Are these going to be touched at all, or should these actually be, like have erosion control matting and stuff like that put over?
They've
it
been
for the
dragged back from where they were previously, closer to the pond, and compacted on the side.
winter? Okay,
And then we're gonna put right at the toe of the slope of the stockpiles, because they are gonna be used to level out a lot.
but I guess are they gonna be touched during the winter?
They can utilize it all.
Possibly. It depends on if we sell that lot, if there's something in motion.
What's your thought? Should
Sell
they
that
be
lot.
moved?
and if
No,
we
no,
will
not, they don't need to be moved, but clearly, I mean, a straw wattle is kind of your last mechanism of, you know, collecting sediment, stuff like that. If you can stabilize the piles, that's gonna be your best option during the winter, but I mean, if you're obviously digging into the
Essentially, where
piles.
the piles are right now, we're gonna knock the ponds off.
Okay,
For the front yard. It's not like they're gonna be relocated anywhere else. They are where they're gonna go. They just
Okay.
need to be shaped into the yard.
well, is it possible to add some sort of stabilization to the piles, especially during winter, to help you prevent some of this sediment runoff getting down there, so you're not cleaning it out, you're actually stopping it before it gets to
We're
where
doing
it's...
two separate rows. We're gonna do silt fence and wattles at the toe slope, and another set of wattles. What is it, 15 feet? Part of the towards the pond.
Could be the-
I mean, that's
To mitigate.
a good
whatever's there.
measure.
There's two reasons. One is the stockpiles are going down there, but secondly, the level, I want to call that, between the toe slope of the stockpiles levels off into the detention basin, that's eroded in some places too.
Right.
So with even without the stockpiles, we still need it at the edge of the basin, but we still need the
It
stockpiles.
sounds like you need more than just the silt fence, sounds like you need some sort of stabilization.
Like,
Either erosion control matting, or you can use a jute mesh.
Yeah, over the pile, over
A
the
jute
pile,
mesh
so.
works great, throw some ryegrass on there for the winter time, I mean,
I don't think it's gonna.
not much is gonna say, yeah.
Yeah, too
So use
quiet.
the jute mesh works well, I mean, just, you know, you're going into winter here.
I have no problem putting jute net over it.
It would be-
That's what you guys are requesting.
I think it would be a really good measure to try to prevent, I mean, because you're not gonna be cleaning out the silt in the wintertime, most likely. I mean, it's gonna be more and more difficult as one goes down, freezes and stuff like that. So to even
Absolutely.
get it beforehand, so it doesn't, you're not in that situation, might be a good idea.
Okay.
That was
No
just my
problem
one
putting jute net
suggestion.
over it as well, that's fine.
Now, would that apply to all the stockpiles that are not being stabilized at this point? Because if I remember right,
Lone
there,
pile and then the backyard of 47.
okay, down at the end of the cul-de-sac.
I would say any exposed earth
I would
piles
agree, yeah.
this would
So
be a
that would
good
be the two
measure.
locations we walked clear out there.
Okay.
Three locations total.
Yeah, three total, the two
And then what
additional.
about the lot where there was sediment
That's 47, you just
That's
mentioned.
47, I was just,
that was impacting the wetland, that's
and
47?
that was all cleaned out.
The other one is 38 or something, with behind 90.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Like the lone pile.
Right.
Yeah, there's three locations.
I would be, if they can consider adding the jute mesh to any of the exposed soil piles, I'm okay with the ones you noted,
Okay.
and releasing the 3 lots that he's asking
What do you
for.
think?
I'm okay, I was gonna ask about number 9, so, why don't we finish up with the silt, or the erosion
Yeah.
control, and then we'll come back to that.
This is the fire department.
Fire
That
department.
was in my list. That
Okay.
sounds ministerial, it sounds paperworky.
Maybe, I just wanted some clarification, but let's finish with the erosion control first, and then we'll come back to that.
Okay.
Okay. I'm okay with, some, matting there, or, if that will solve the problem and
I think the biggest thing is...
prevent the
Yeah.
issue from reoccurring.
I think that's, if we could look at some preventative measures rather than reacting to, me cleaning it up.
I mean, at the lone pile of lot 38, nothing has come down
Nothing's come
there.
down, okay.
But we were planning on putting silt fence and
Okay.
walls at the bottom.
So maybe that one's okay, but if we've got exposed earth, I mean, I just think it makes sense to kind of stabilize it for the
It's a
winter.
very large pile.
It's 30 feet high, so
Yeah.
Oh.
it's not,
It's a large pile, but nothing has come down. And since then, we filled that bowl.
Is it stabilizing? Is there, like, if it
No.
rains and stuff?
it isn't growing, nothing's growing on it. It's not growing for it hasn't grown for a second, you keep on utilizing it.
We keep adding to it.
Rebuilding, taking and some and rebuilding, so it hasn't got any smaller, but maybe 1 week it is smaller, then let's see, back
I'd say
to that size again.
Yeah, as we strip areas, whether it's a lot or the secondary swale, whatever it is, it gets added to, and
Okay.
so it continuously has stuff going over the
Okay.
edge of it. So juvenating the side of that slope, I don't know how effective that would be.
Yeah, I mean, if you're continuing, again, if it's an active pile, I mean, your NIPD's permit basically, which I think you said you have, because you have a SWIP basically, if you have anything that's going to not be disturbed more than 14 days, you need to stabilize it. And you need to consider also you going into the winter conditions now. So if you're actively using a pile, you're putting stuff on it, taking stuff off, you don't need to necessarily worry about it. Use the straw wattles at the bottom, the sill fence like you're talking about. But if you're not going to touch it for more than 14 days, you should stabilize it with some...
It gets something added to it within 14 days.
Okay, then...
Not as an excuse to it, but you couldn't, it's give or take 30 feet.
Yeah, so
You couldn't physically climb it and put anything on it. That's steep, it's not,
So
it's
just
a
use the
wall.
measures
It's
at
a
the bottom.
ramp that the trucks dump off, and then
Yeah,
it goes...
but you
Yeah.
couldn't, no one could walk up it, I don't think.
Where is this?
At the end of the cul-de-sac,
Okay.
a giant pile of dirt.
Just to the left of the end.
Okay,
Right in the
okay.
back of that.
But, I mean, that's one of those situations, if you weren't going to touch it, and it was in the fall, you could spray it. But obviously, nothing's going to grow right now,
And
so...
it consistently gets added to it.
Okay,
It
so,
gets bigger
yeah,
and
if it's being
bigger.
disturbed less than 14 days, just use your sill fence with straw walls at the bottom.
He's going to, it was going to be done and it hasn't been done yet, but it was already agreed upon. So we're back to do it.
It was.
Are there invoices due or is his kitty low?
I will be requesting funds for Hamway's construction oversight probably within the next month. I think we're down around $2,000. But I don't know that needs to necessarily be tied to
Okay.
this lot release.
That's fine.
There is a noise violation from October that needs to be paid, that's $300.
Okay,
And that should be in your packet.
okay.
And then I just wanted to ask you, Fred, what about the construction, the stone construction entrances? Have they been maintained recently?
They've all
I don't
been
remember.
maintained recently, yes.
Okay.
Yep. I will add something about that noise violation. We will pay it,
Yep.
but when we had excavated out near Century Mill
Yep.
Road, we had run into some disturbed material. It was PD, it was bad material right up against the road, and we had dug it out.
Okay,
Harold asked that it be fixed immediately. I told him it'd be done by Friday. We stayed late to get that finished because he didn't want somebody pulling off or swerving on the shoulder and then going off the embankment. So we stayed to mitigate that before the weekend.
my suggestion would be, pick up the phone and call Erica.
Okay.
I mean, it doesn't,
I'm not arguing about
So-
paying.
no, I
I just
know.
want to justify it. It's not like we said, oh, forget the town, we're gonna work.
yeah.
It was because we told the town we would finish something by Friday afternoon. We stayed to do it.
I would be ready for a motion unless you have other comments.
Well, my other question on number 9, replacing the bollards with the stone wall.
Yes.
Is that moving, is that going to be between the road and the access to the cistern?
So,
Or
the way it
do we
is,
need to look at the plan,
is
right?
I have a driveway that comes into a house here.
Okay,
The cistern runs this way,
okay,
the road runs this way, and there's the pull-out right here. And because it's right in the front yard, we want something more aesthetically pleasing
Than bollards.
Than bollard was.
okay.
So,
just-
I have to draw up something for the fire department.
My concern would just be if it's doing anything that would
There's going to be
impact their
space
access.
on the wall for the fire department to
Yep.
get from the
Or
drive they're going to sit on and right into the suction line.
Okay,
So there's
as long as they don't have to be climbing over the wall to get into anything or something like that.
He's talked to the fire department
Okay.
about that.
I have talked to the fire department about that, they need to put something on paper,
Yeah,
and I started doing it, didn't finish.
okay.
So, that, as I said, that's my fault, that did not get upgraded, because that was my responsibility to draw up.
Okay.
So,
I think come spring, we need to hold your feet to the fire a little bit more about getting some of these,
the ADA ramps and,
some of the stuff that was promised for last summer done.
and there's some things that, not to shoot myself in the foot, there's some things that we didn't talk about. We need to rehydrate some stuff around some ponds and stuff, that has to happen this spring.
Yeah, can't be done now. Where are we with the affordable unit?
Can I talk to you guys about that for just a moment?
Let's
After-
close.
Okay, well, I didn't know whether that would impact people's thoughts on releasing more lots if we're hung up on that.
we can talk about that. I'd rather just do it
Okay.
at the time, though. I think it's just easier. I might ask you to make a motion.
Can I?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Eric, I believe, feels the same way. This was back in July, so 5 months ago, and some has been done, a lot hasn't. We went back out in November. The piles we talked about at 9C, there was 5 of them, I believe, back in July. And we went out in November, and there were 5 more, or whatever.
Approximately.
And nothing, and they're closer. Nothing's been done, and this has been 5 weeks or so. We went out with Rebecca from Conservation also. So all these erosion controls were supposed to be put in place many months ago. Even as of November 8th, we were out there, and you were going to write a response to all of them with a time frame. And that hasn't come yet either. What I'm getting at, and it's not an unknown thing, nothing is being done when it said it's going to be done. Most of the things aren't being done. That fire plane, that's a year old, for instance. So things aren't getting done, they're just saying they're going to be done. And they haven't. Even the catch basin traps, or the clean the gas traps that are supposed to see. I can't really see them without taking every grate off and taking every silt sack out. So it was simple enough, they clean them periodically, and he's gonna contact me when they clean them, and I can just see them in. And that's been, what, a long time. Has it been a year?
No.
Easily last spring.
It's during the summer.
Okay.
How often do you clean?
3 months. When they get full. It depends. The lower areas fill up
Or-
faster.
yeah, no, no.
The higher areas, it all depends. I mean, depends on where they're located.
And then when I went out last week, the road was pretty dirty, especially up in the high end and down to the cul-de-sac. They were working on, I don't know the numbers, probably around 42, 44. And there's no construction entrance, there I saw.
They're there.
There wasn't, but there wasn't then. Either that, it was tracking out, it was all fresh, wet, dirt, pretty
The day
dirty.
you and Erica were out there, we
No,
had.
this is just last week.
They're all in, all construction
Okay.
entrances are
I
in.
don't believe there was one on that.
And if they're not,
But,
they're paved.
So, back to it, and you can say whatever you want about it too. Everything's being just put off, and yes, we'll get to it, we'll do it next time. It isn't getting done.
I agree with that. I think that when things do get done, it's because the board has weighed in and said, okay, we're only gonna release a lot dependent on you know, contingent
That's the
upon you.
reality.
Yeah, that's the reality of it. We're in reality, particularly related to the erosion controls, they should be doing it in a very timely manner to be in accordance with their SWIP, in accordance with their construction general permit. I mean, technically, the EPA could weigh in on that.
Yeah,
So
I mean, they
the
came on,
DEP.
yeah, they came on site, you could get an enforcement order against you.
Right.
Lot 47, it's the side and backyard behind the cistern, if you want to know where that is, and closer to the culvert. And there's some big piles there that is filled for the yard, side and backyard. We had gone down to the culvert with Rebecca and traced silt from backwards up and up the slope, probably about 100 feet up to the top of the thing. So it has come down the slope and down into the wetlands. So that has to be cleaned out also along the slope.
And that was
That was cleaned out?
What causes all of this? It's sediment on the road and the cause of that?
No, this is actual fill for yard,
Okay.
side, the yard going,
Just over down.
and the backyard, left side yard and backyard.
It was yard that was rough graded. It just.
Which isn't stabilized.
Right.
So-
In some places 10 feet high. And you said Rebecca's seen it cleaned out? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
You aware of that?
My understanding is that conservation didn't require some of it to be removed because they felt that removing it would cause more of an impact to the wetland.
Everything she
leaving it?
asked us to clean out, it's been cleaned out.
Okay.
But I can follow up with conservation on
I wasn't
that.
aware of that.
Everything she asked us, I walked it with her again, and everything she asked to be cleaned out, everything was cleaned up. And then we re-loamed the area that had washed out.
I might recommend we add 2 items then. Rebecca's sign off that she's in relatively good shape, and you're confirming that it seems like the most sensitive item, because I think it's the culprit of everything else. You're confirming that we've either got proper construction entrances to lots where we need them, or we've got paved entrances.
Yeah, I mean, just to throw it out there, I mean, as Erica, brought up, your SWIP document and your compliance with your NIFTY's permit, when you have a breach and erosion sediment controls, that has to be repaired within 24 hours. Not days, not weeks, not months, certainly not years. And I think it's really important, especially from the Conservation Commission, I agree with having them, making sure that they're all set, is if it's not taken care of and sediment gets filled up, when you're degrading the wetland areas around it, and over time, it's gonna continue to degrade, and you really need to, it would be great if you could take a proactive look at this and not a reactive look at it, because it seems like everything here is more reactive. So I'm okay with both of those. I think it's really important to make sure Concom is on board with everything, because they are more concerned with, or have legal jurisdiction over the wetlands.
And I think the way that is phrased, for purposes of this vote, is Concom is contacted and they confirm that there's no critical outstanding issues, something of that nature. We can't ask them, are you all set?
So, does it make sense for us to put a time frame on some, like with the ones that were circled, that these need to be done within a certain time frame?
I think we could, but I think the reality is that our leverage is to say that Fred's running the business, he's trying to release lots, he's trying to convey homes. He's incentivized in terms of the time. It is a little reactive. It is more reactive than proactive than we would like it to be. But I think that's the lever to get the stuff we need done. And the reality is he is probably pressed for time, so it's probably going to get done quickly.
Okay.
I have a hard time figuring out how we enforce a time frame, because it doesn't work, typically. It either does or it doesn't, but we don't have a lot of control over it.
Well, I guess getting the Concom to be okay with the status of the erosion sediment controls is their time frame. I mean, if they're okay, if she's okay with
That's
it,
my vote, yeah.
then
Do you want to
Can I
take?
ask something?
Yeah.
What's your schedule Monday? I'll be available.
So if we want enough, we can get the silt sacks out.
I'll be available starting tomorrow morning to next Thursday.
You slacker.
I can do a site inspection.
I just want to pull the silt sacks up.
Oh, well, I could check
It's
that.
supposed to be.
If Fred's okay with that, but,
It'll take
Hours.
12 hours.
It's hours. It's not a quick.
It's not like you could pull them all off and then I could go out and say, okay, I see them all.
no, they usually pull them out and
She's
give
trying
them right
for
back.
Yeah.
You can't.
So you're gonna walk
Yeah.
with them.
It's hours.
Right, and that's impossible.
As light a lifting as it sounds, it's not a quick thing to
No.
do.
I,
20-something of them on the road.
When you talk about conservation's acceptance or whatever, is it just lot 47? Is it the other stockpiles?
I think in general, their confirmation that no critical issues are outstanding at this point. I think that's the best way to word it.
And I also think it should be from planning department's perspective as well. I mean, I would like to go out and check them too. If that's,
That's how I
I think
envision
that's fair.
all of these items.
Okay.
This 5, 6, 9 additional erosion controls, to your satisfaction.
okay, what was the second, you had 2 additional things?
So I'm thinking release of the 3 lots in question,
Yep,
subject to 5, I'm sorry,
subject to 3.
completion of 3,
Yep.
5, 6, 9.
Yep,
The additional erosion controls that'll probably be on the second page of that email, they're the ones pursuant to Fred Hanway's most recent inspection report.
okay.
Which would be lot 27, lot 47, 38. If
Okay.
you want to be specific.
Okay.
Sorry, lot 27, 47, and,
38.
okay. And then getting Concom
Yes.
on board, and what was the last one?
Fred's confirmation that, your confirmation
On the,
on satisfactory either construction entrances or otherwise paved. That, to me, being a novice looking at all this stuff, I mean, that, when we get concerned about the sweeping and keeping the roads clean and then the silt sacks are filling up, the novice says it seems to all start with, it's a very active site, and you're in a lot of areas at once. It is what it is. And there's a lot of dirt collecting on the street. And the more riprap we've got, the more that marriage between the road and the dirt is
Everything on Old
Stabilized,
Circle
but-
is either has a construction entrance or is paved.
okay. And it would be an easy confirmation.
And the key to that is maintaining them, huh?
Yeah.
They're definitely in a muddy time right now. so.
Yeah, yes, we are.
Okay, I will make a motion to release lots. I just lost it.
25, 37, 42.
25, 37, 42, with the conditions of item number 3 be completed, item number 5, 6, and 9 as well be completed, and including additional erosion controls as noted on the second page of the email from Erica, dated from July.
No, December 13th.
December 13th.
Yep.
Sorry, 2016. In addition, getting confirmation from the Conservation Commission that they are okay with the status of the erosion controls in general for the site, as well as getting confirmation from Fred on the satisfactory condition of the construction entrances.
you should probably put in the December 13th email, right?
Yeah.
It's really
Yeah,
references to July.
Yes, per the, these items as noted in the December 13th email.
Which were discussed in
Yeah,
July.
but that's just a summary of the, it's not something new, it's a summary of the July.
Yeah.
It's a recap.
So it should be
Yeah, this whole
noted as
email.
July.
Yeah.
And you're doing the minutes?
No.
Oh, okay. But I think it should be in there, that it's the July email.
Okay, I'll second that.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Relatively painless. Says the guy who doesn't have to do any of the work.
Me?
No, me.
Oh, I was going to say, well,
Affordable?
if you guys could hear me out.
Sure.
On that. And I'm kind of asking for some mercy from you. I have a couple of ideas for just type for cash, which I'm sure you guys all know from our last meeting here.
You have options.
I have options. I would like to propose something, and maybe you guys could hear me out
Sure.
on it. I'd like to drop off a check for like 60 or 80 grand right away, and I have 2 certificate occupancies I need promptly. One for the Bay Genies who showed up tonight. They'd like to do them before Christmas, and planning board is the only sign-off left on their payment card. The second is this gentleman right here, Bob. And I would like to, we have a bunch of closings come up, some on lots, some on houses. And propose paying like 10, 20 grand a house for the next few houses to get us caught up.
My perspective, and others on the board can share their perspective, you've known about this for 7 years.
Not this, well,
7 years.
I'm not disputing that we've known.
You've had
about
cash
that.
flow for 7 years, and you don't need cash. You can donate, it's a very liberal, if I may say so, condition in that permit. You can donate a lot of your choosing, not ours. You can identify one to be appraised of your choosing, not ours. Or you could, we provided additional flexibility months ago. We said you can post 140, and that number was agreed to, discussed and agreed to. So that's,
So the 140 got what, the 20?
the 140 was a way to give these guys some flexibility to say, post 140 in escrow, we'll
Yeah.
hold on to it. while they take the time to decide what they want to do. Either give us a lot, it's not our choice. A lot of times in a lot of towns, inclusionary zoning falls into the hands of special permit granting authority, and the town can decide on every application what they want to do. Every town's different, but this permit allowed for his choice and his election of which lot. Could be the best, could be the worst, it's up to him.
I'm glad you give me that much credit, because it's not my choice.
Well, I'm just saying, that's the part. It wasn't mine either. I adopted this, we as a town.
But that's to get us from 21 to 40, right?
The 140 to be held in escrow gives them, I forget the numbers.
I think that was to give a little bit of latitude while Andy decided, and while we came to agreement on appraisers and what lot it was gonna be and getting that paperwork done.
But that was our,
But
that
I'm
was
not
our
sure that any of
guess,
that is, that was our,
guess of what it will end up.
That was a
around.
low ball
That's a
estimate
low ball
as to what the value would be
But
after
that's,
backing.
but that's so we can, go from 20, because we're at 21, right? Just to go to 40?
Yeah, I think it was to 25.
I think it was 25, yeah, no, it wasn't,
It was a hint.
yeah, it wasn't.
pretty close.
No, but the levels are 20, 40, 60, right?
Right,
Yeah,
but
that's
the 140 was not to give them free reign up to the next
Right,
milestone.
it was just to get to 25.
It was to give a little bit of flexibility. So,
If you're cash tight, don't eat a lot. I mean, that is an option that you have. The reality is, I'm not, my perspective is not trying to be a hard ass, and I feel for you, you're caught in a tough situation, right?
I don't have it that free latitude. That's my.
You're making
So
your
you-
problem ours, or you're trying to, and it's not fair to the town. It's not fair
Andy
to
is
the
trying to
town.
make this problem ours.
So how many, so there's, what, one house that needs to close by Christmas, or two? And you have 60,000 ready to go?
Yeah.
I mean, I would personally say,
Maybe 80, but.
I'd be flexible and say that, if he gives the 60, we can get up to at least to two more.
Others can chime in, I won't support it.
Yeah, I think we had said, if I remember correctly, it was for a 21, we said 140 would give 4 more.
Yeah.
So say, 80 would give 2 more in interest.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want,
It's not a perfect situation.
I don't want to screw people over, so.
Yeah, that's.
Well, that, I will remind the board, we did go from 20
I know,
to 21, when we
Yeah,
should have.
well, I know it's not an issue of our making, it's an issue of their making, but I'm still willing to be flexible, 60 for.
I'm not disputing it's our making.
Huh?
I'm not disputing.
Yeah, I know you're not,
And honestly,
But if we.
I just have a heart, and I'm trying.
Yeah, no, but I think, so if we go 60,
It's not.
and we go to 20, you go up to 23, you give the 60 or whatever, I mean, I'd be okay with that.
Then what?
Well,
I'm not being critical, I'm
yeah,
asking
no,
what's the
I
next
mean,
step?
well,
I
they
mean, I
give more
think
money.
that's kind of the last,
I mean, this is like a
the
payment
last dip
plan.
at the well here, that,
Yeah.
you need to, I mean, there's a lot of work here that, early last summer is this will all be done by fall, and it's not done.
I'm not disagreeing with
So last,
The affordability, the affordable unit has been, you guys have known about it for 7 years, certainly Andy's known about it for 7 years and should have been planning for it. It's been on our agenda
Months.
many months, and Andy sat there and agreed to the number and agreed we'd have an appraiser and all the information, and was at least 2 months ago.
And 2 meetings.
Yeah, so I think, I don't wanna mess up our new residents, or hopeful new residents, plans of being in by Christmas. And I know moving into a new house, it can be, a real pain in the ass, and trying to coordinate with where you are now and all that. So I'm okay with the 60, but
That's it.
that's it.
What would the 60 do?
The 60 would give them
The
the two.
Then what's the next step in resolving
The
this
next step
process?
is the other 80, or getting the appraisal.
what we said, instead of 60,
Before you get any.
so I'd say
Send you
60,
a
60
lot
for
number.
the, 60 for these two, get to the 140 for the other two we talked about, to get to the 24 or whatever it was,
25, yeah.
25, and then no more until it's completely resolved.
I can make a suggestion too if you want. If you want to tie us, giving you a lot number to that for the appraisal.
You're ready to give a lot number?
Well,
Sure.
I don't have it.
Is
I
Andy,
actually need
well,
COs that I'm asking for too.
has Andy made any progress on
No.
picking enough, well, okay.
I wouldn't tie anything to that.
So,
Just
I'm just
take the
saying.
60, give the 60 for the two, another 80 for the next two, and then after that, there's no more until it's solved.
Was it-
Introduce yourself, please.
My name is Bob Pace, and I'm a builder in development. I bought 5 lots about a year and a half ago, and we've conveyed 2. We have one ready to get the CO signed off on, and we have 2 more that are under agreement, okay? We're done in there. We're like an innocent third party here, and I can appreciate that, you know, the board has an issue with the developer. I've been in those shoes before, okay, as well. And just like you said, it's kind of like when you're having construction issues, okay, if you don't hold the hands on the fire, okay, it doesn't get done. I appreciate that. I don't think that the developer is not paying you because he wants to go to Aruba. I think he's not paying you because we've been in an economic tsunami for the last 7 or 8 years. It would seem to me, and I'm not on the board obviously, that working out a program with the developer to, which you probably already feel like you have, I'm addressing you directly because you're the hardest one here on this, would seem to be more prudent, okay, than just taking a hard line and say, no, we're not gonna do anything. But I'm here selfishly, because my next CO is going to come up in January, okay? And I'm tied, well, yeah, in January, and I'm tied to the developer, okay, which I have no clout over.
You have no pressure points on them?
No, I have bought 5 lots. I'm not affiliated with them, okay? Although I know them, okay, they do work for me, okay? But beyond that, okay, I don't have any other leverage, okay, to, I don't have any pressure points to attack him on, okay? And I'm gonna be in here next month saying, hey, I know what you said, and thanks for the first one you gave me, but, you know, I need another one and another one. And I don't need the last one until March, okay, but I am gonna need another one. And I'd rather have that discussion tonight rather than wait until I have my buyer sitting here, okay, doing the same thing. And I'm not trying to be hard, I'd rather resolve it, okay, and
So how does it work?
I mean, unfortunately, the person that needs to be here to help resolve it is Andy, and he's not.
I was gonna say, you don't buy into that agreement? He sells you those lots assuming that that's already a burden on him?
right, and it's not on record where if you did a title search, okay, that you say, well, he owes this, so there'll be a lien on the lots that I'm buying. I'm buying a free and clear lot. I come in, I get my building permit, okay, spend $700,000 to build, okay.
Well, it's not
5
necessarily
houses.
free and clear, I mean, it's an agreement that's been
Well,
agreed upon.
let me just give you my perspective.
There's not a lien on that lot, but the definitive subdivision agreement is recorded in the registry.
But nobody checks
Oh,
subdivision.
I would.
Okay.
Oh, I would.
For every lot that you ever bought,
Yeah.
okay, I mean, I've been doing this, I've built 3,000 houses. I've worked my way down to this level. And I'm telling you that unless somebody asks for a zoning opinion, nobody would ever look at a subdivision approval. Okay, that's the reality of it. Okay, short of that, I'd be attacking my title insurance, which would throw that out, okay? And again, okay, I'm not saying that Andy won't give you the other $80,000, but my next CO is coming up, okay, first, and I'm not gonna give you $80,000 of his money because that's just not fair.
The reality is the town entered into an agreement with language. And we on this board are looking out for everybody in the town. And I'm not trying to make any agreements this way or that way or give additional latitude. I'm trying to hold true to our agreement. It's as simple as that.
Okay, but I'm a taxpayer too at this point.
So
Okay,
am I.
So,
We all
I'm-
are.
no. So I'm asking you to watch out for me, okay? And I've got myself into a situation through, to my mind, no cause of my own, okay? To my attorney's mind, no cause of my own.
Is it a cause of ours?
I don't know how you would post it, okay, where it's in the chain of title, where this has to happen, okay, so that when somebody's running title, they would know that, okay, there is no way to know. If they went out tomorrow and sold, 50 lots, okay, nobody would know that.
Again, unless you went online
Well,
and said, I'm buying lots in a subdivision, is there a subdivision approval? Maybe I should read it.
I mean, you
That's
could
not
argue that
reality.
Andy misrepresented the lots as being free and clear with this,
It's not a
or not,
problem.
but that's not our problem.
No,
That's, you know.
And I'm not trying to be a hard ass. We granted number 21. We had no obligation to do so.
I wish
We were
you
just
didn't.
trying to be nice.
okay, I wish you didn't. Okay, because we would have had this conversation a month and a half ago.
Interesting way of saying
No.
thank you.
Okay.
No, because that didn't
We did it
benefit me, it
for
actually
you.
hurts me.
Okay.
Okay, well, I didn't realize it was my line, I thought it was his line.
It was
Thank you.
yours.
I'm sorry.
Oh, great, thank you.
I'm sorry, but okay, thank you. I didn't realize that. Okay, so thank you, I misspoke. I'd appreciate you I get one guy closing on the 27th. That's very important. Obviously, he's coming in from Indiana, okay, the day after Christmas. I don't think that's a pretty good way to start his new year, whatever. I guess I would like to propose something, okay, that even if there is another CO coming up, okay, get to 25 if you want to, and, stop issuing building permits, okay? I mean, I'm here, okay, if you never gave me a permit, I wouldn't be asking for a CO. I'm saying that selfishly.
Were there other questions in the audience? I saw some hands up.
My
Please
question
introduce
is
yourself.
unrelated, Mr. Chairman, but after this is done, I just had a quick question while these folks are here. Thank you.
Sir?
Yes, so my name's Dan Biagini, wife Sarah. We're hoping to move into our house on 46. So we've been in Bolton since 2009.
That's one of Andy's houses.
Yeah, we're hoping for the CO.
Okay.
So we've been in Bolton since 2009, sold our house and have decided to build with Andy. I think your comment about why giving out building permits, if this is still a restriction, is a pretty valid one, right? Like, the way I see it, granted, I obviously have a lender who's been involved and is also very interested in getting a CO, but you just released 3 more lots that it sounds like those people are going to put lots of money into building a house, and if there's no actual path to occupancy, are you doing that with?
There's a clear path to occupancy. What we're doing is we're not interpreting, we're reading the letter of the permit to the T. And the permit calls for the inclusionary zoning requirements to be met prior to the issuance of CO. We have expressed to our developer for months that there's a way for him to meet that criteria. He's known about it for 7 years. We gave him an extra step of flexibility and said, look, here's another way around it to buy you some time. Put some cash on deposit with us. It's been radio silent for months. We've got an agreement for this subdivision that I'm trying to hold to the letter of the law. That's all this is.
Right. But, so then when you release, in order to release a lot for building and to issue the building permit, does the subdivision need to be in a certain status where it's actually, you effectively have a situation where you could have more and more lots sold, folks getting through the progression of building.
But COs not being.
But no COs, and then your
But it's not
tax
coming,
income.
it's not coming out of anywhere, and Andy knows, they know what the situation is. They've known it, like you said, since they signed the agreement 7 years ago, whatever it was.
The reality is, as a developer, which I have been, okay, as stuff closes, okay, it generates capital and they can come in, it's just $140,000 at one shot is a lot of money, okay? So what he's prescribed was, you know, let me have $20,000, okay, for each one.
Respectfully, it's not at one shot, it's over 20 lots
I
and 7
understand that.
years.
I understand that, but, okay, and, okay, again, respectfully, having been in those shoes and knowing how front-loaded developments are, okay, and how tight banks are with their cash, it ties up a lot of cash to kick off a subdivision. All the profit comes out of the back end of it, okay? Money just rolls into, okay, a subdivision, okay, as it kicks on and gets up to a plateau where it just kind of chugs along. And then at the end, okay, there's a lot of cash flow. That's what really happens, so, okay, in the business of developing land and building homes.
I mean, I think if the developer came into us in a timely fashion and said, cash flow is tight, can we work out an installment plan effectively? Months ago, I mean, it took us 4 or 5 months to get him to agree to, or to even come in to talk to us about the appraisal that's required on the lot.
Which
Which is still an open issue from 2 months ago. So, well, I think Andy was on 2 months ago, but yeah, but so, this isn't something new, it isn't something, you know, and we're trying to be flexible to keep the development in process. I mean, yeah, we could take a hard line and just say, okay, we're not releasing anything, period, end of discussion, until all of this stuff is resolved. And that would grind everything to a halt there and
I'm not
crank out a lot of
suggesting that
interest
either.
payments, and it would be, you know, so-
And I want these people to move in their
Yeah.
house, okay? And I
Yeah.
want my customer to move in their house, okay? And, you know,
And it's-
I'm not,
So what's the
Don't take me
So you have 2 coming in before the end of the year?
I have the Bee Genies
Yeah.
and then Pace. I thought he had 1, but I guess he has 2.
So you have,
I have 1 at Century Mill Estates,
Yeah.
but we did sell 5 lots to Mr. Pace,
and how many are yours before the end of the, when are your closings?
my closing's on the 27th, I've got one at the end of January, and I've got one at the end of March. So those are,
And your partial
As
release
March is-
fees to your
March is-
bank are 100% sales proceeds? There's no
So,
cash being
so
generated from this?
to March, there's only,
not talk about numbers.
That's, okay.
so from now until
But yes,
March,
it is a steep amount.
so from now until March, there's only 2 closings? One for you and one for you?
1 for me and 2 for him.
no, I have
the
3.
year.
You said you have 1 in January.
I have one
You
at
said
the end of
December.
December.
At the end of the
December
year.
27th.
End of the year.
And one in March.
So 1 in December,
is
1 in
3.
January,
Yes.
and 1 in March?
We have some things in the works that are gonna generate some cash, it's just not.
And you said you have 80,000?
60 to 80. I know I have 60, I think we have 80.
I don't know. Could we say 70 for 3? Because then that would get us done, well, that'll get us through to March.
Right. And I think we'll resolve that.
And then if Andy doesn't resolve it by March,
There's 4 to March.
no, 1.
He has 1 December, January, and
Right.
March.
He has.
Well, I'm saying 3 to get to March, so
We have
point of March.
something.
Not including.
Not including March.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm saying, and if Andy can't figure this out by March, then it's, you know, it's on you guys,
I
not on
completely
us.
understand that.
But you have the
Saying
same
it's
issue
not-
that he has of someone looking to move in. and
In March.
and this-
March. Well, but it's
Yeah.
December.
I
I have
know.
no clue.
Figure it out.
Anywhere near.
And I can live with that.
I mean, figure it out by March. But if we said, what, was 70? What is the number?
I'm safe at 60, I can try and get 70. I didn't have enough time.
Just say,
to prepare.
I mean, just say it's 60 for the 3, and then, I don't know, after that, what you want to say.
Is it 3 or it's 4?
No, it's
It's
4.
3.
Well, how is it not 4?
Because, no,
He's got-
because he has 1 in March.
not count.
Oh,
Late
so
March.
before
Yeah,
March, this
yeah,
would be
yeah, it's
before
late
March. I
March.
see what you're
This
saying.
is
I see what
December,
you're saying.
January
Okay,
closing.
2 in December, 1 in January.
Yeah.
I see what
We
you're
have
saying.
one of this.
Yeah, but you have 1 December, he has 1 December.
Yeah.
That's 2 in December.
And then 1
He has 1 in
January.
January,
Yes.
so that's.
That gives you and Andy 3 months to get an appraisal. I mean, there's plenty of time, I think. to resolve
I think Andy needs to pay us a visit next meeting and really
Yeah.
tell us where this is going and what the holdup is.
When
And
is the next meeting?
It'd be January, second week.
Is it the 8th?
I feel like there's
January
plenty of time
11th,
to solve this
January
by
11th.
March, before March.
there's
2 days.
plenty of time to resolve this in the last 7 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this isn't, but I think.
I mean, I understand if we're getting some money towards it, I don't want people to, future residents, I don't want to screw them over, even though it's not our problem, it's their problem, but.
Can I just make a comment on the appraisal?
Yeah.
My recollection was that even though we couldn't come to an agreement with Andy on who the appraiser would be, the town would at least, at a minimum, we would select the appraiser, and do an appraisal. They just had to give us a lot number, and that would at least kind of get the ball
It
rolling.
would kind of get the ball rolling.
So I don't
He was
know if-
not committed to accepting.
No, he's
Our
not, but it
appraisal,
would.
our appraisal, but yeah.
I didn't know if the board wanted to also say it's 60,000 and a lot number, so that way I at least can do the appraisal.
Can we do that?
Yes,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we said,
Yeah.
we're
That'll at least
supposed to
get,
get a lot number.
that'll
That's what I was
force you guys to
Okay.
get the process moving.
Yeah, because we,
May I-
back in.
I was trying to
Okay,
lock
just in
that
case
And
he
end of
leaves
September,
tonight,
we were
still
looking for
can't come up with a number, we have at least 2 of us, okay? I mean, I know that sounds preposterous, but, I mean,
I don't understand.
He's saying he doesn't want Andy to screw him over.
no, he's just very indecisive, okay?
So if he doesn't get the lot number, these 2 people that
Right,
want to
we're
move
not
in
gonna,
December
yeah,
are.
right, so at least these 2, give us a lot
I say
number, we'll
just
give
leave-
you another one.
Leave the appraisal, the explanation for March, just get these 3 done. 60,000, I mean, that's my opinion.
Make any motion you'd like to.
Do we have, in the motion, do we have to give the lot numbers, or is it just 3 closings allowed? How do you word it?
May I suggest one
It'd
thing?
be occupancies, not closings.
3 occupancy.
Their certificate of occupancy.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, 2 should go to 1000 LLC, 1 should go to these guys.
That's fine. Okay.
Yeah,
One to Old
that's,
Stone and to,
It's 1 CO for Old Stone.
Yep. 2 to $1,000. So-
What's it, 2 for what?
1000 LLC, 1000, LLC.
And what was the other CO2? Sorry, I missed it.
Old
Stone.
Old, why is it Old, it just goes by the neighborhood?
Company's Old Stone,
Oh, okay.
the neighborhood's Century Mill.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why. It's above my pay grade now.
And
Then
then,
they can dissolve the company at the end of the development and not have any liability.
well, it's still
I'd like to still have a job, but you know.
So that's how we word it?
It's up to you.
I will make a motion that, given that Century Mill Estates gives $60,000 to, do I have to say it's going to something particular, or just some particular fund?
Escrow for affordable.
yeah, escrow for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund.
Okay. Okay. On condition that Century Mill Estates gives $60,000 in escrow to the Affordable House Fund, that we will approve certificate of occupancy, 1 for Old Stone Circle Estates, 1 for Old Stone's Estates, and 2 for 1000 LLC. And then moving forward, no more COs will be given until the matter is solved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Nay?
Oh, sorry, I didn't vote. I abstained.
It works.
Intentionally or?
Intentionally.
Okay.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much, I do appreciate it.
But I think, yeah.
I just have a question while these developers are still here. I noticed that Danforth Brook is really flooded near Hudson Road. Does your property of these many, many acres abut the wetlands of Danforth Brook at all?
Where's Danforth Brook?
It's 85.
That's off
I don't
85.
know where it is.
Yeah, that's off
I don't
85.
know.
There are wetlands, I know, on this property over, in
If
that
it does,
past
it's in
Old
the
Stone
open
Circle
space.
toward that direction. I was just curious if you've noticed wetlands rising over there. I mean, I don't think.
I
you're
haven't
building
noticed
them.
any, and I spent a lot of time out in the woods out there, recreationally, and I haven't seen anything.
Okay, I was just
Danforth
Just
Brook
by the
curious.
Century Mill, the stables.
Pardon me?
No, this is
No, no,
this is on 85.
Abutting the old Bonazzoli property and this property.
I
No.
believe that
So
on
that's
the
Century
website,
Mill
that's
Road.
all open space. None of that is anywhere near, that's in the back
No
part of
wetlands.
the
It's not
100 acres.
wetland?
Well, the
There's 3
wetlands.
sets of wetlands
Yeah, they're
out
not
there.
that far.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, we don't go all the way out there. I've seen it on a map, but I've never been out that way.
On the first topic, we'll
Yes.
send you an email, because I know there's a
Please
lot of
do.
numbers and a lot of
There are,
topics.
and I will never remember.
Yeah,
So if
yeah.
you can copy
I'll
me
work on it.
email, I will absolutely follow up on that. The erosion controls will be here tomorrow. They'll be in by Friday. I don't have delivery time tomorrow, so if they show up early, we'll start working on them. But they'll be in by Friday. The exception of JukeNet. I gotta order JukeNet now. And
So,
the other ends will.
I don't know, like when town hall's on holiday and stuff, but, you know, make sure that that check gets in
Yep.
so that things can happen. Do you know when people will be in the office and stuff coming up? Because there's what, before Christmas?
Yeah, the Christmas holiday, I think it falls on a Monday, so, and same with New Year's, so just as
So
long
you
as
get
it's
open
not
always.
Monday. Yeah,
Oh,
typical
yes.
hours.
All right.
And I think Angie needs to be here next meeting to get the affordable stuff resolved.
What's that?
Okay.
I do, yes. I feel like wrap up this.
Thank you very much. I know you guys have a lot of other stuff in there. Thanks.
We're only an hour over.
45 minutes, yeah.
Short for us. Thanks, guys.
Have a good day.
Is it mostly articles that you guys are?
It's all our post, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you, Mr. Hanley.
We need your expert, so- yeah. As you noticed, me and Mike were over here just
Yeah.
being quiet. We weren't talking about electrical engineering.
Yeah. So folks in the audience, we're well over schedule, but we're here to talk about potential articles. If you guys are here for a particular one, let me know, and I might do that one first, so you guys aren't sitting here all night long.
Yeah, the inclusionary housing one?
Okay? All right. Anybody else have a specific request? Then we can talk about the first one first.
Am I too soft?
Yeah, you are.
Maybe they weren't here staring at us.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Please let me move into the house.
This is the,
Yeah.
well, it was, in real just.
Oh, Sarah. Hey,
Although you move well, I was on that. I mean, we were saying 60 for 2, and then you're like 70 for 3.
I threw one in the hand. Leading pattern.
okay, sure. Sorry, guys, I will catch up. Next month, everyone have a wonderful holiday.
Children, much better behaved than mine would have been.
Oh, I don't know, there's a lot of bribery, let me tell you.
Whatever you bribe for.
Okay, we've talked about inclusionary zoning a bunch of times. I think the logic is all here, but I took the liberty rewriting it. But the math is still there, and I'll say it out loud, but we can share it by email in the aftermath, and folks can digest it. It gets to the same point, but it's just different language. So the applicant for development subject to this bylaw may pay fees in lieu of the construction or provision of affordable units to the town, period. Fees shall be payable prior to the certificate of occupancy relative to each and every unit in the subject development. Fees shall be calculated based on the following formula. the actual sales price of the unit in question, divided by 3, divided by the number of total units in the subject development. So it's effectively saying, the same math you were getting at last time. 10 units, let me do one math and then you can correct me. 10 units in a project.
Yeah,
1 unit is required.
yeah,
You can pay fee in lieu of instead, if you want to.
yeah.
You pay fee in lieu of based not on the average of all of them, because there's a timing issue. That works.
Yeah, yeah.
But you pay
yeah,
based on the individual. The magic number is 1/3.
Yeah.
So if a house sells for $1 million, it's $300,000 fee in lieu of.
Mhm.
But to get it to add up to only 1 unit, you take that 1/3 of 300,000 and divide it by 10 units, so it's 30. That number 30 changes every single unit
Yep.
based on the different sale price of the different units.
Yep.
So you get an average, but you're able to apply it up front at each one.
So it's just-
exactly what Eric was going for in this draft, it's just different
Yeah.
language.
Yeah. My only issue with the wording here is it's a third divided by the total number of market rate units in the development. So Century Mill, the total number of market rate units is 60.
But let me do paragraph 2, because I'm gonna get to, and then you can.
No, well, but I think instead of saying a third divided by, I think we should just put a number in there. 3.3%, 4%, whatever number we wanna, don't go into details about, because it is gonna be a flat fee, based on the sale price of that house. So instead of muddying the water with kind of the background information of how we got to that percentage, just put the percentage in there and have it done
I
with.
think that's what we have, 1/3, 33%.
I think you
No,
have.
I'm saying get rid of the 33. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the background of how we get to the actual number is, 3.3%, 4%, whatever number we want. The 33 is basically taking the sale price, guesstimating what the portion of that is for the land, and then dividing that across the 10 units for that. So
How do you do that, though, if you
Why
have
not?
different, what if you have a 9-unit project versus a 10? The math is different.
Yeah.
But you still have 1 unit to contribute.
Or if you have an 11-unit
Right,
development.
same
then,
problem.
Unless we do a table, that's the only way that you could actually calculate it, but that would be a very long table.
Where I was going to go.
So if you have 8 units, which is
Yep.
the minimum that's applicable,
Yep.
then you're paying a higher percentage than if you have 15 units.
Yes.
Okay, which I don't,
Well, no, you're not.
It still ends up being.
Because it's 1/3 of that one
One-
sales price.
No, but
divided by the
it's-
total number of
it's
units.
divided by the total number of units, I think is where so divided by, so
The
it's,
only reason you divide,
it's
you're dividing it by 8 units, but then you're multiplying it by 8 payments. So you're coming up to a 100% every time.
100% or 1/3, yep.
Exactly.
no, well, I think you're missing a multiplier in here, which is the number of affordable units that need to be donated.
So, paragraph 2. Hold on.
Okay.
At the approval of the SPGA, Special Permit Granting
Yeah.
Authority, developments requiring the applicant to provide for the construction or provision of more than one affordable unit to the town, the applicant may pay fees in lieu of relative to each affordable unit. Each fee in lieu of paid would be paid according to its own schedule, consistent with the structure provided for above, parentheses, e.g., the actual sales price of the unit in question, divided by 3, divided by the number of total units represented in the grouping for which each affordable unit donation would otherwise be required.
Sounds good.
Don't just say that, though. We'll circulate it by email and
Yeah, I
digest
want to
it.
read it.
Yeah, I want to read, yeah, I mean,
I understand what you're saying.
I'm surprised you do.
No, I understand what you're saying.
I understand what you're saying. I'm just looking at it as, can we just simplify it and just,
Oh, let's make it hard.
that's how we got into this.
No, but the math does work. Digest it, we can talk about
I mean,
it.
we certainly want to have an example or two in there about
Yeah.
I think that could hurt.
calculation.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just kind of going the other way and just saying if we just
A
have.
percentage,
Just
4%, 3.8%.
3.8, we pick
Yeah.
it, whatever number we pick, and that's just the number, and whether it's, if it's an 8-unit subdivision, we end up a little short. If it's an 11 unit, we end up a little ahead. But it's
Yeah,
just,
right,
but
right,
then
right,
it's
right.
just a straight number, everybody, it's
See,
there,
the
you plan on
accounting
it.
doesn't jive well with that.
So the only issue is what we just saw here tonight was when lots get sold off.
Well,
And now it
and
becomes someone else's.
But
I think that.
it's payable in each individual one.
I think the one, and given this, I think when the lots are created, there that inclusionary language it needs to be part of the deed, so that it isn't a surprise to anybody buying.
It's not a surprise because he didn't read a special permit. If you're buying a lot from a developer who's got a special permit and that's
Yeah.
controlled by a special, any title agent would pull that up. That is
They
so, I do this for a living, trust me. He builds the houses, I check his math. That's what I do for a living. So, no, I don't buy that at all.
Okay, I'm just trying to make it.
That's the easiest thing to find out.
If an individual went to buy the lot,
Yep.
they might not know to look for that.
If they didn't have a lawyer,
If they didn't have a
or a
lawyer.
really terrible one, sure.
Just, again, just, in the interest of making sure that it's all painfully obvious to everybody, and painfully straightforward.
Sure.
Here's a simple percentage, and this is part of your deed until, it's implicitly a lien by the town until we get
Sure.
until we
Sure.
get
Sure.
money. And we're done. And there's no questions, there's no point of confusion or anything. It's just,
Sure.
and that's, it's kind of, correct by construction. There's no fiddling, there's no anything else to go into it. It's kind of my,
Let me circulate mine, read
Okay.
mine, and write yours.
okay.
We've got, it sounds like what, Erica, another 2 meetings?
Before we have to have the.
Beat these with a club before we gotta figure it out.
I think 1 over 3x, x being the number of the houses is perfect. Would you agree on that? Because there is no, like, if you set a number, then it's,
Well, again, do we say houses or do we say lots?
Yeah, and then the question is, if you sell a bare lot, what value are you putting on that lot? And what percentage do we get from that, from the sale on the lot?
Because it's tied to the certificate of occupancy of the unit,
Yeah?
you'll never pay the fee
Until you build a
until and
house.
unless a house is built. So I think we
Okay.
save ourselves there. Rather than pulling a building permit, you gotta pay it. Or rather than paying the whole thing up front.
Right.
so yeah, that's each payment, 1 over 3x for each house.
So, just to sort of work that out in my mind, so a lot is sold to just say it's sold to a family, and it's, someone purchased it because they want it as an investment for their children, and they don't build on it for 20, 30 years. Then the developer of the subdivision approvals go, the 8 years expires, they're done, they've walked, maybe they've even no longer have that business. How are we ever gonna recoup that fee when they go to build on that lot and want a CEO? At
We
that
have the same
point,
problem today, right? It is a problem, I'm not minimizing it, but I think we have that same problem today.
Well,
If it's a subdivision that has a definitive permit and only some of the lots are built out on, if we only build out 19 lots of this example, we never hit that 20th, we would have never gotten any fee. You're right, it's a risk, it has us exposed. The only way to get against that
I think that's,
to get a
I think
permit.
that's where you're kind of looking at it as is a lien attached to the lot. Then that would, 20 years from now, that lien is still sitting there.
You should ask Brian, or maybe somebody more locally, whomever you want to ask, but is there a way, not so much is there a way, is it standard practice in any town to impose inclusionary zoning language on an individual deed for the individual lots within a subdivision? I bet you the answer is no. I bet you it's always within the special permit for the project. And then it's, you would be amazed at the stuff we have found in our due diligence, running down title from 100 years ago.
Mhm. And I think
It stays there. I mean, it's just what
in
title
most
search is.
cases, you know, I mean, Craftsman Village, being built by one person, they're not.
But you do have these
but-
one-offs.
But then you have, when you get into seeing these other, Century Mill or Fox Run, or, some of those where they do sell off some lots, how do you track that and how do you, so.
Yeah.
I think it's a little different beast when you get into some of these large individual home developments.
Sure.
Where, we don't have the model where the developer comes in and won't sell off a lot. Or most of the developers will because they want the cash.
Sure.
So what about the donation of land? I mean,
I think we were taking that out as an option unless it was specifically in their agreement, which for Houghton Farm, it was in their agreement.
No, this is just fee in lieu of, right?
This is fee in lieu of, but in lieu of what? And it refers the reader back to, right, other
Well, it says right
parts.
here, donation of
Donation of
land.
land.
An alternative is they contribute a fee or land to the housing trust.
Where is that?
Right under
So-
the second L section,
So the,
above the yellow.
what I've provided in the article isn't the entire bylaw. So
Okay.
under section L, or no, I'm sorry, under subsection 1, there's a subsection 2 that talks about donation of land. So it's two different items, or two different sections. It's just not included in this.
But wasn't, it was up to the SBGA if we wanted land though, right? We could not take land
Correct.
because we don't necessarily want land as the town, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Do we have comments from the audience or thoughts?
We actually didn't know what that article was about, so we actually...
You're learning something
Yeah,
new.
we're learning something. So it'd be great to understand what the scope is before, it's really hard to just read what the hell that bylaw is.
So currently, when we get fee in lieu of, it's a flat 200,000, which in some developments, that's well under the price of a lot. In other developments, it's at the high end of what the lots go for. So
It's a fixed number.
But it's
so-
just a fixed number, it doesn't track with inflation or anything, or the economy or anything. So our thought was to move to some percentage of the house price.
Try and tie it to the market. And the whole
Tie it
backdrop.
to the market and tie it to the scope of the development. So in a high end, Oak Trail or Century Mill, at the higher end, we get more fee in lieu of Craftsman Village or Houghton Farms or some of those, which tend to be are more
600.
modest. We end up with a little bit lower end, but the value of the lots there is a lot lower as well. So that was kind of what our thinking was going to a kind of a percentage of the sale price.
All towns do it so many,
Yeah,
a
this
litany of
isn't
different ways.
And this isn't the lot price, it's supposed to be a unit.
Right, but
A built
the
unit.
goal is to kind of track what it would.
Well, that's why, I mean.
Right now, it's, you donate a lot or you donate kind of a fee in lieu of that lot, which is in theory to kind of correspond to the value of that lot.
Well, remember, the goal
So-
is to get people to build affordable housing.
Right.
Builders, that's the ultimate goal.
That's the ultimate goal.
Right, and so, but because that's such a pain for people to do, other towns and we as well make these, say, okay, well, you can donate land, or you can give us money instead of building an affordable unit.
Yeah.
So we're trying to, we've now seen 2 cases in the last few months where people have come in and had issues with either not being able to pay it. It was Houghton Farms, right, who
Well, and
who felt that
the
who
value
felt
of
that
their-
the 200,000 was excessive.
and their-
Because his value was the land, was 130,000, so that's what he wanted to pay, was the land, not,
Yeah,
but it's clearly
right.
stating a unit, like you were saying, it's supposed to be.
Well, this,
right.
yeah, this language is
Yeah,
definitely
towards a unit.
So that's kind of what the genesis of us looking at this was, and kind of what our thinking is. So I don't know if that gives you the context to comment on.
Yeah, no, I think we were on the wrong topic, I think.
Okay. So, if, say, Home Farm wanted to build a affordable unit, what are the rules to that? So they have to build something that's a certain percent close to what's there otherwise, or? So if one of their 15 houses or whatever, they wanted to build an affordable, like, okay, we're just gonna build an affordable house.
There's a few
How does that work?
It's the sale, no, they have to build it, it's the sales price. It has to fall within some percentage of the state median income or something. And then that's forever tied to that unit. When that person then goes try to sell it, it's marked as affordable unit, and they can't sell it for market
But
price.
can they build a rent house, kinda? Or does it have to be similar to what's there, or?
There's some rules in
I
it.
believe it has to be somewhat similar.
I'll get this wrong, but from the outside, it's supposed to appear
Yeah.
no different at all. If you go to Pondside, the one, Regency, the Toll Brothers one on 117, the idea is it can't be a unit in a less desirable section. It can't be a unit that from the outside looks to be inferior. It has to fit it. The way developers typically do it is the finishes inside are of a lesser.
So arguably, so maybe they
It's
build
the same
it,
size.
maybe they build it a little bit lesser quality, but then they have to sell it at whatever is determined to be an affordable price,
Yeah.
whatever that is. Is it?
It's deemed affordable by those earning whatever the number is, 80% of area median.
But in any case, most builders don't seem to want to do this. I don't know if they don't want to take the hit when they sell it, or if it's a paperwork issue, or...
I think that's a fair comment, that most don't want to do it. It's also fair that in Bolton, the Affordable Housing Trust has typically taken the position that cash is better. The Affordable Housing Trust can do more.
Better than land.
Better than land, yeah. They've had trouble.
What have they done with the money so far, though? They've tried to build a duplex that got...
That's correct, and that didn't work. What has been successful is going to Atlantic Microwave, what's it called?
Copy?
Comment, yeah.
No, the
behind there.
Bolton Woods Way?
Bolton's Way.
Oh.
And
That's
I might get
affordable, but
this a
some
little
of
wrong.
that's affordable.
Some are affordable, some are market rate. I think what we did was took money from the fund, monies that we collected from inclusionary zoning payments like this, and we would either pay, we would wait for a market rate unit to go on the market. We would
Subsidize it, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, close that gap. But we would make a marriage. We would find somebody who has applied to get into one of these affordable units, find them a market rate unit, close the gap with the cash, pay down the difference,
Yeah.
and in exchange,
That makes sense.
change the
becomes a-
deed,
yeah, it
call the
becomes
deed, this is
affordable
now an in perpetuity.
Yeah.
So when they sell that
This is-
house,
Yes, yeah,
it's-
it's now affordable.
it's somebody who has to qualify for an affordable unit, and...
Yes. Another one of the kind of funny, not funny, peculiarities, area median income is based on Worcester County income. Bolton is a pretty affluent town for Worcester County. So that which, I'm gonna get this wrong, but that which would qualify for one side of the equation
Doesn't
wouldn't
match the
qualify
other.
for the other. So the guy would qualify
big
because
gap.
he wouldn't make enough,
Yeah.
but HUD, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac
Yeah.
would not qualify him for the mortgage because his debt-to-income ratio was
Yeah.
too high.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very small window where the family can afford to buy the house and yet qualifies. They make just enough, but just
Yeah.
little enough
Yeah.
too. Money, I think, was used, at least in one instance, I might be wrong, to expand that window so
Okay.
that they could actually put that marriage together.
Yeah.
So Kevin O'Brien and Doug Story being pretty creative with, okay, how can we actually add to
Yeah.
affordable housing in a
Yeah.
meaningful way,
Yeah.
get a lot of bang for our buck.
And so as long as
And
that
make it
house,
happen.
as long as that house exists, it's deeded as
Yeah.
affordable.
Yeah, from that point on,
That's
yeah,
good.
yeah.
And I don't know if anybody else has anything to add, but I think that one, a $600,000 house gets you to the $200,000 number, and $1 million house would get you to three, you know.
33. yeah.
So I think that formula worked. I think this is a little algebra equation. Inclusionary plan.
Look at my email and feel free to whack it up.
Yes,
You've got another
send it out,
2
but I
weeks,
mean,
but it's another, it's the same logic here, it's just
Yeah.
different words.
I like tying it per
Right?
occupancy, because then you don't have, again, what
Well,
was
that's
ran
what
into.
Brian
Yeah.
And let's say the project takes a really long time to do, and the market's doing what it's doing now, and escalating up, you're gonna get more of that. of course.
Yeah. Also, you
It's just, it's more accurate,
You
it's not more
also,
money.
you
it's
also
more accurate.
force the developer not to keep on pushing it off until he has this big thing and then it's an issue.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
And it is, you know, I mean, 200,000 is a big chunk to come up
Right.
with at once. So-
Well, the reality is, when these construction loans are put together, you usually have a line item for that.
Yeah,
figure.
I mean, we just,
I don't know whether they do or they don't, but I mean, that's the typical. Not only that, you've got 20 sales, the reality is, you're reaping some level of cash flow out.
Sure, yeah.
And the real reality is, it's not our responsibility to manage that. We would be very onerous if we said, all your fees are due upfront. I mean, how is that
Yeah, no, I agree.
logical? That's tough, but.
I mean, I think this is
Can I
good.
ask a question?
Please.
You said that the unit has to be perpetually deemed affordable.
This was one of the things we did.
Isn't that a disincentive for the homeowner to then do improvements to the property?
Not necessarily.
No.
I'm just thinking, you say, all right, you know, it's low-end kitchen appliances to make it affordable. Well, why would you ever then do an upgrade to it, especially, you know, 20 years later, you want to do a renovation of it? There's no incentive to use better appliances or whatever, because you have to sell it at an affordable price. It would seem like you wouldn't, it would be
Well,
disincentive
saleability is going to be determined by whether the house is in good repair, right? So maybe that.
Wouldn't there be a top end on the market value?
Yeah,
market price of the
maybe
house?
But I mean, this isn't, I guess this isn't the law where, that's the Massachusetts 40B.
I mean, you can't allow somebody to buy it at a $4 rate and sell it at the normal rate. I mean,
Well, that's
that'd be
why-
a good business to get into.
I'm just saying, it sounds like a very weird incentive disincentive that it creates for the home buyer.
Well, it is, and I think that's why people opt to do the fee in lieu.
Okay.
It's an incentive to create affordable housing.
Right.
Where otherwise you don't get any.
Right.
So that's a larger argument,
It's-
Brett,
yeah, yeah.
the value of affordable housing, I think. Yeah.
I mean, it's trying to come up with some solution to a difficult problem.
Yeah,
It doesn't
sure.
have an easy solution.
Yeah, right. I think that's.
I mean, yeah.
It seems like those units, long-term, are never going to be very desirable, that they could wind
Well,
up.
it'd be
They're never
desirable,
gonna be
they'll be
incrementally
desirable to
more
somebody who's in a
Exactly.
poor school system, poor
I
town, and they
understand.
can move
Yeah.
into our district. Maybe it's not the greatest house, but it's, you
It's
know, an
almost an
option.
incentive to let it run, and if you let it run down, then you can get your price back, but there's not an incentive.
I mean, it's
Well,
not-
if you let it run down,
Then
you
you get
lost your
nothing.
principle,
Yeah.
right? So there is a disincentive to marginally make gains on the affordable property as the
Yeah.
homeowner, right? But that's not what this is all about. I think there is certainly an incentive for the homeowner to keep his home in good enough repair to be able to effectuate a sale when he or she wants to sell the house.
But no
right?
rounding that.
Yeah.
But it's not a money-making scheme,
And if they're
right?
gonna redo the kitchen in granite, I mean, they should.
They probably, yeah, they're probably not.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe they got successful.
Like, we're gonna do all this extra money.
Then chances are they're gonna wanna move out of the affordable and
There
into
you go.
something higher end. But, I mean, without getting into those details,
Yeah.
I mean, the goal here is to give money for the affordable and,
Just looking for the law of unintended consequences.
Oh, they're always there.
So yeah, you wanna send around your language.
Yeah,
and-
yeah, and feel free,
I mean, there's also, you know, things, you know, state money and stuff tied into if you have affordable housing or not too, so, isn't there? I mean, the town,
Well, it
Instead of some
expedites the
No.
permitting,
Yeah,
expedites
yes,
the permitting
yes.
process is what it does, and it gets you around all sorts of the
every
subdivision.
town must be at or work, I'm gonna get it a little bit wrong, but at or working towards
Right.
10% affordability.
Yeah.
And to the extent you're nowhere near your 10%,
right,
it opens the town up to
right.
40B.
a 40B application.
Yeah.
An unfriendly, as they call it, 40B
Yeah.
application.
When you're at 10%, then 40B goes away.
It goes away. It's funny, I've seen a map of this area and the towns that are at 10 or close to it. And there's a lot that are at.
Well, the wrinkle in that is if you build apartments, all of those units are considered affordable. So if you go into, you know, Hudson where they've got a whole bunch of, you know, kind of, you know, apartment developments.
Yep. All of the ones that are deemed
no,
affordable
No,
count.
all of the units are deemed, are
Apartments or condos?
apartments.
Boy, I should know that, I didn't realize that. So if
Yeah,
you do a
they're-
200
But what if
unit
it's a high-end
complex,
apartment,
and
though?
20% are affordable, 200 unit complex, 20% are affordable, you get your 40B permit, 200 get tacked onto your number? I didn't realize that.
That, or at least that's what, when, I forget who it was, whoever was originally gonna develop, were Creston Villages.
Okay.
Their first proposal was 3, like 4 or 5 story apartment blocks.
Okay,
And the claim was that all of those units would count toward our,
so we'd be all set.
so that would have basically
Doesn't
had to
make
meet
sense to me,
the,
but.
And that was a friendly affordable? That was like, this is...
Nobody's saying if only 20%
It wasn't
affordable, they all
40B.
count.
no, it was
I mean, I
40B.
don't know how
Okay.
you build.
But-
But the argument made to the, well, it
That's
wouldn't be
true.
to the town.
Well, that was one of his selling points, was that that would get us to our
Okay, okay.
affordable
Apartments on condos,
numbers.
you're renting.
And you'd be done, one project and you're done.
You're right, yeah.
Yeah, you probably will. They probably figure that.
But, yeah, but I
They probably figured
mean,
this
that
out
was
to
his
be a
claim, I don't know.
High-end
I
next
haven't
to a.
investigated it.
I mean, I've never had an apartment complex where they varied then.
No,
Where, what?
I'm just talking about.
Apartment complexes.
We're talking about
Anyway.
fast food?
Yeah.
So you're gonna give the, your wording? I mean,
Yeah, I'll pass it around.
but I think the math in general is good.
I think the math
Mine
works.
stays with
I'm just trying to take math out of any developer's hands and just.
Well, yeah, but the other thing that we should think that does is the second that they sign, that they agree to that, it locks them into that for the rest of that
Yeah, that's part
structure
of
of
it.
units.
Locks them into that
Yeah,
formula,
yeah,
yeah.
yep.
Right,
The
they can't,
prices
they
may
can't then
fluctuate.
come back later and say, oh, now I want to donate a lot when they're halfway.
Oh,
through
oh,
that.
oh.
You know what I'm saying?
No switcheroos.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
So that they could only switch if there are multiple
Into
affordables.
the next,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Here's one final question for me. Is it our call as to whether it's fee in lieu of, or is it the developer's choice? I've seen towns do it differently.
I mean, I think it's been on a call. It's been up to the,
This language area
Granting.
makes it,
Yeah.
so the question of whose decision is it to donate the unit or the fee in lieu of?
Well-
I've seen towns go both ways.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think it would be the planning board as the special permit granting authority.
Okay.
However, it would be a negotiation with the developer, because the developer would have to
Okay.
come forward and say, look, it's not feasible for me to do these units, for whatever reason, if it's economical or,
I always come back to Quincy, but that's exactly how Quincy works. The
Yeah.
language says, and I really had to research this once, the language says that it's SPGA's decision, but I called up town hall and said, look, if we took this property over in foreclosure and we had to finish it up, we're not gonna build units. And I'm not gonna search on MLS and try to find units. That was another one that Quincy allowed. If you found a multifamily, you could deliver it to Quincy and say, do you like this one? Do you want affordable units in this neighborhood? Quincy could say, yeah, that one works. And then they would enter into a deed rider that modified the deed and said, this is in perpetuity now an affordable project. That town said, no, I mean, it's our call legally, but we work with the people. We'll
Right,
listen to the argument, whatever it is. Okay, I like that.
So what was that? Make it our call?
So we
think it's always
would
been our
say
call.
in this writing that it's our call.
I mean,
Now,
I think
it has
the century knows when it
negotiation.
wasn't. It was.
it wasn't.
It was before we had the
That
code.
predated, so that's.
Yeah.
I thought there was wording in the bylaws that it was up to the
Do you
planning
think
board.
there is already wording?
there
It's just not
there is
there?
wording. It's
So I
in
don't
a
need-
different section.
Okay.
It's in a section prior to the,
That it's up to us.
So we don't
if
need to put that in.
No,
this
we
language,
don't need to put
touch
it in, no.
Okay.
Doug Story offered to come to one of your next meetings to just
Okay.
give a perspective,
Good.
a builder's perspective, as well as because he sits on the trust, so
Yeah.
is that something the board would?
Yeah. He
Yeah.
has been involved in this, he and Kevin more than
He
anybody
helped put
else.
together the first, he helped put together. the
Who
bylaw.
came? Someone came.
I think both Doug and Kevin
They
were here
were,
before.
but I don't know
But
that
they
we
were
had
here for
language.
Hope Farm. It's the same
Yeah.
conversation.
No. Well, they were the ones who said that the 200,000 number, they're like, we just kind of, we
Yeah.
needed another.
And that was when prices were going up, and they said,
Yeah.
200 is, you know.
Yeah.
A good number.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
think,
A lot of zeros in it.
This is, I'm gonna have to write a note, but this is the second time I screwed up the fast food in my own head. What we're effectively doing here is saying, today, our code allows for fast food as an accessory by right. We're recommending fast food as an accessory, not by right, but under special permit.
Yep.
It is not fast food by special
Nope.
permit. So we're clamping, we're suggesting that we clamp down.
Yeah.
We're not suggesting that we make fast food more
Yes.
accessible.
Yep.
so Article 2 is we're just cleaning up the definition.
Yep.
This is purely the definition. This has nothing, you know.
And really, the most important thing to get rid of is that first sentence that she has highlighted. After that, the whole intent thing, I mean, we were just saying that was kind of not, it seemed like proper for bylaw.
Because I know we talked about it. Wasn't the intent necessary according to
I
the
didn't
AG?
know. I thought maybe it was, so you had requested that town council weigh in, so town council reviews all articles prior to town meeting anyway, so when we get to that point, I'll just say, Brian, can you take a look? I think the intent may need to be there, can you?
Yeah, because if there's some type of legal reason, you know,
But do we have intent for inclusionary housing definitions?
No, and I agree with you on that, yeah, I mean, all of our, so you had recommended that maybe it just becomes part of the summary in the article,
Yeah,
which,
not,
yeah.
and I'll pose that to Brian.
Okay.
Just take everything from intent on and maybe put it in the summary.
so everything in parentheses is getting removed, and just that one,
And I'll put it in the summary, actually.
Well, everything highlighted is getting removed.
well, except for this regulation.
Well, that sounds like that's, oh, yeah, that's still there.
Separate parentheses.
So this regulation shall not apply to ice cream parlors is staying?
I love that.
Yeah, I didn't think,
Do we need that?
I think we do if we want ice cream parlors.
Because it's not,
And what's the other one, discotheques?
would you consider ice cream though fast
Be fast
food?
food?
By the definition, why not?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Look at how selective we're being. Ice cream's okay.
Picking winners and losers.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, so,
But
yeah.
we added that? No,
That was
already
it,
in
that was
there.
already
in there.
Okay.
We're just-
So the most important thing to get rid of is the foregoing should not, the whole loophole line, which is the first sentence. The first one in parentheses that's highlighted.
Well, and again,
Yeah,
remember,
that's your- you
and
always said
again,
that, yeah.
remember, this is just the definition.
I hate that.
This is just the definition. This
Yeah.
has nothing
What
to do
is fast
with.
food? What we're getting.
Well,
Yeah,
and
this-
we said though that, you know, this doesn't belong in the definition of what's, you know, that should go on the table of uses. So getting rid of that is taken care of by the next article.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We move on?
Yeah, that's good. So we just have to find out if that should go in the summary or not. The intent. And then 3 is,
I think Eric, you said it would go in the summary. It's a question of does it need to be in the definition, right?
Well, it could go in the summary if we need to. I mean,
Okay,
I
all
don't,
right, all right.
I
I'm not
don't
there yet.
see,
I'm fine.
I don't see it that it needs to be there, but I mean, it's more editorializing than anything else, but.
so, in primary, so is there fast food under retail saying no in the table of uses? I forget.
I'm sorry, say that
Good
again.
question.
Yeah.
So right now, what we're adding here, and
This is under the accessory column.
This is under accessory, yes.
The idea, and it's the page break that probably throws it off in my mind. The idea is everything on the top of page 3, all these uses,
They're all accessory uses.
They're all
they're
accessory.
indented, right?
Yes.
They're all
Yes.
indented under accessory. And Eric's question is, under primary uses, is fast food a no, 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 no,
Yes.
no? Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is good.
Okay.
Nice and clean, no thinking about it.
And I asked this question last time too, and I think I know the answer. Accessory building, the reason we're touching that, what really got us looking at that was the 50%.
Yeah,
Okay.
it just didn't make sense.
So it wasn't,
And last time I'd given you several examples from various towns for
Yeah.
these definitions,
Yeah.
and you guys preferred what town of Stowe uses, so that's what I put in here.
It's not necessarily for the fast food thing, it's just kind of, it was
Right.
another wrinkle, it was another variable.
General, yeah.
the word detached, a detached, should that be in there?
Well, that's accessory
genuinely
building, not
Accessory building.
accessory use.
No accessory, yeah.
What was the whole thing with the winery?
That's literally what was a detached building.
Yeah.
It literally was
It was
attached?
for the
Yeah, because the
restaurant.
way they could have gotten around it was they built a little walkway from,
My only concern is that by putting detached here, we don't run afoul with them, do we?
Run afoul with,
the winery.
The winery, the permit that they have, the determination that the town's made behind what they have, are probably being.
I don't know.
Because you're
the
saying there's
wineries
another building that's
permitting
immediately
that well.
touching it?
I mean, it really, it implies
I'm just
detached
asking.
in the existing one.
Yeah.
Right, because
Yeah.
located on the same lot.
I
Right, I mean, that implies
Detached,
detached.
detached,
It kind of does.
I think detached needs to be in
Okay,
there.
I'm
because it's
genuinely just
accessory.
asking. Okay.
Because I don't want someone to come forward and try to make a case that
Well,
it's part of the main building, but,
Yeah.
oh, it's being used for accessory.
Well, and even,
and
this is
even-
building, we talk
Yeah.
about part of.
Well, and even the
building
state
use.
was, and when it came to Neshoba Valley, the whole thing, they said, oh, well, if you just connect
If you connect the two
the
buildings.
two buildings.
That's
with-
why
with
the
a-
concentrate, I
well,
just want to
that-
make sure.
that was
those-
the- that was
But
the-
that would be their definition of attached, so
Got it.
just taking off the, so all
And
we
it's not
really.
accessory because the thing is attached.
It's attached.
Okay, but then you would get into talking about accessory use, which is why we keep it super simple, we got a separate definition, any use which is incidental and supported to principal use.
Yes.
We liked that town that
Yeah.
did that. Yeah,
I love how it's separate like that.
Me too, me too.
Yeah.
Base map is easy, just a date. Firefighting and other supply. I'm not gonna try and read my language, I had just a couple of nits, but it doesn't change. I don't think I had anything substantial.
Is that the amount, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, is that
Yeah.
the amount of water supply?
Where are
The
you?
location, firefighting and water supply.
So there were a couple different things that are being addressed here. One is when they look at where the closest supplemental supply is. Right now, I think the way it's defined, if we have anything, it's basically just a straight radius, whether or not that's
Reachable.
reachable or not. And this is just clarifying that it needs to be within 1,000 feet.
This is
By-
the
by
length of the
travel.
hose from the fire pond.
Um,
Used to be 1,500, like when they had common driveways and streets and 6 houses on a common driveway. They couldn't be so far from the truck that the truck couldn't reach it if they had to.
We're accomplishing that with this, like, we're trying to say that you cannot be more than 1,000 feet across a path that the fire truck would drive in its acceptable.
Be 1,000 reachable feet, not going,
Yeah.
not going through the woods
Yeah,
or.
not as the crow
Right.
flies,
In other
but
words,
reachable feet,
It's
that's
got
what
to
I'm
be
saying.
more accessible than the current
Yes,
requirement.
yes.
The current requirement isn't clear, it just says 1,000 feet.
It's not
so
clear.
We're
Yeah.
we're
Okay.
clarifying it now.
Okay.
Yeah, so right now,
Not 1,000 feet through the woods, which.
Right,
right now, you know, from Long Hill, you could say, okay, well, the pond is over on 85 and it's within 1,000 feet, but
There's no way to get.
but it's a mile for the truck to
But
drive.
it's not,
you know.
it's not practical.
But it's not a practical, yeah, so this is saying, it's gotta be 1,000 feet
Accessible.
as the fire truck would.
Along a route that fire apparatus would be expected to travel.
Yeah,
And then on B, actually,
Well, before you get to B, at A, instead of, so, second line, requirements in section shall apply whenever an applicant constructs 3 or more residential buildings. Do we want to say units instead of buildings? Do we allow for triplexes in town?
Only under 40B.
Okay, then forget that comment.
and I think that there might be some state laws that, you know, multiple unit housing
Trigger something else.
trigger
like
something.
Sprinkler.
They
Yeah,
definitely trigger
multifamily
sprinklers.
housing, right, yeah.
Okay.
Triggers
So
sprinklers.
that's like a state law or something, right?
Building code.
Oh, building code,
Yeah.
okay.
It's the amount of people that are in the place
Well, that too.
that aren't related to.
That applies too, yeah.
I had a comment about B, what were you going to say?
So, we talked about not being controlled by the fire department.
That's my comment.
So I think it should say, as approved by the planning board with advisory input from the fire department.
I'm getting at the same thing. The design and capacity of any new firefighting water supply shall be subject to the approval of the planning board with consultation from the fire
Yeah, same
department, and shall be informed by then current requirements set forth by the National Fire Protection Association.
This sounds more official though.
Doesn't it? I'm good at this. Sounds like a picture.
Banker legalizing everything up.
I do get a little concerned when we say shall be subject to the approval of the planning board with consultation from the fire department, because at the end of the day, I believe that the fire chief has much more authority and power
True, but then that's one
to make this
person.
determination than the
I
planning
agree.
board would.
I agree, but so we have the consultation of somebody who does have the know-how, but 5 people who can rationalize, whereas if it's one person who can completely put the kibosh on
I just feel like
something.
it's the opposite.
By
It's more
his
the
own
consult- it's-
admission, he said he is always going to side on the, err on the side of being
Sure.
fully conservative.
Sure.
I think it's up to us to look at the situation and say, that's underkill or that's overkill, and have a
No,
conversation.
and I understand that. I'm just
And-
thinking in terms of the law. I mean, when push comes to shove, I think the fire chief could override whatever decision. That's why I'm just wondering if,
I think the town is
I
going
mean,
to override. It's
Yeah.
whatever language the town votes on.
I mean, I think if he felt strongly about
Yeah,
something.
we're gonna listen
Yeah, we would
Yeah,
listen to
yeah.
him.
But I think also, I
But
mean,
then-
I think part of the rationale was if, not that personnel ever get into this, but if he has a beef with the developer, he may push for something much heavier than what we think is, in a similar project may have.
I think by allowing one
So-
person to control the destiny of something is not good.
And I think one person who's never going to side on
Reasonableness.
I shouldn't say that. That's unfair. That's unfair.
That could potentially.
I think that's unfair, because then you could look at the building inspector who issues building permits and say, you know, oh, he's not issuing building permits to this person because he has a beef with them. Well, at the end of the day, that doesn't really happen. I mean, it
Sure.
could potentially, but
At
that,
the end of the day, you have to put the approval authority in either the planning board's hand
It is-
or the fire.
It is a little different
So
though.
you can have the argument on one side or the other. I think one of the differences is it's a board of 5 citizens versus one guy whose job should be to err on the side of being more conservative.
Yeah, the building inspector, he's probably, I mean, I'm sure he is on the side of caution, but a fire chief, I think, would be even more so. That was just my thought. And I don't think any of us would ignore him. But if we felt like he was being,
Well, and there's a check and balance,
Yeah.
that there's a vote with 5 members.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
the distinction that I draw.
right, yeah, that was my thought. There's 5 people, you know, so.
Is advisory better than consultation?
Or is that worse? I don't know.
I
Professional
think
advisory?
it's not really the word,
You're worried
consultation and the
about
word-
who has the approval. at the end
Exactly,
of
I
the
think it
day.
should be flip-flopped, but that's just because I believe the fire chief has more authority than the planning board may realize at this point. I think at the end of the day, I don't know if it's whatever laws and regulations that are governing, but,
I mean,
you know,
if it
that
was
govern
up
the
to
fire
him,
department.
if it was up to him, 470 Main Street would have a 30,000 gallon tank.
That's my concern.
Which
That's why
is-
we opened up this can.
Yeah, which is, I mean, it was, what, 10 times the cost of the one they put in, right?
I think we're elected to make those decisions, to look at the expert advice from people like him
Yeah.
and say, this is
You want me to
reasonable
at
in
least
this
look
case.
into it? I would hate to put something in a bylaw that isn't really accurate.
What do you mean not accurate?
Like, for example, the building inspector at the end of the day has the authority to issue building permits, has the authority to issue certificate of occupancy. A lot of times our conditions are tied to building permits or tied to the certificate of occupancies, and the building inspector stands behind the decisions, conditions that the planning board puts forward.
But
However,
legally,
if push,
he can't.
legally,
Yeah.
push comes to shove, he
Yeah,
could
you
issue
can.
that.
But if we
It's the same idea here.
If we
where-
use that rationale, we should just say, all right, well, the chief dictates how high the buildings have to be, the chief has to dictate, you know, how long driveways, and now, you know, I mean, I think this is like a bylaw for the town. We take his advice, but, I mean, you just can't give one person leeway to completely control things, I don't know.
That's where I'm leading, but
Okay, that's fine.
Or
No,
what
no,
if
no,
you
but look into it,
temporarily
see if
didn't
I'm
have
wrong.
a fire chief?
Right,
You guys
then
will
we just
always
like,
be here.
yeah. Yeah, that's true, and so, like, sorry, you can't build anything, because we don't have any chief to say what size tank you can.
What would you do? Look at other towns and compare it, or talk to the fire chief and see if
I would talk to, yeah.
he has a different understanding of authorities?
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
fine.
at a minimum, I could just ask the chief if he's comfortable with that language, or if he feels that it's in compliance with the laws and regulations that govern what he does. I
I would ask the
just wanna
latter
be-
question. I don't think that hurts for us to find out.
What's the language right now? 3,000, what's the language? It's
It
like
should
a
be.
3,000 gallon tank or something?
Yeah, it's in the next
A
article.
1,000 for each 1,000. No, I'm sorry. I'm
That's
in the wrong
for,
place. Sorry.
non-combustible.
This is,
1 gallon of
1
water for
gallon
each
for each
square
square
foot,
feet.
total
1
floor
gallon.
area of buildings of combustible material, and
So-
1 gallon of water for 2 square feet of combustible,
oh, 2 gallon for
of
what?
non-combustible.
And so,
One for
470 being what, it was like 2,400 square feet? They
Yeah,
just
they
did a
needed
3,000.
around
They needed 3,000.
Correct.
And Chief Menzer saying that he wanted a 30,000 gallon for that. I mean, that's a pretty big difference from where we're at.
What did we do? Go
Yes.
in between?
No, we just went with the current bylaw.
We went with the bylaw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just
Because that
allowed
was
to
the
have
language
3,000.
that the developer's looking at in our
Yeah.
code, yeah.
Which actually, they'd still be, they're grandfathered into that anyway, right? It would be new.
Yeah.
I don't mind your asking the question.
I think it should be how we're saying personally.
Okay.
I don't disagree with you, but it would be good to make sure we're not overstepping our bounds.
I mean, when he was here, that was the impression I got, that he was okay
too.
with.
Yeah.
I mean, in other places when we're doing a permit, we get consultation from the fire department on access, on where they want cisterns and all of that,
Yeah.
but ultimately the decision, it comes back to the board to take their input
Right.
and merge it into the rest of the plan.
That's true, yeah.
And
that's true.
I think this is kind of the same thing. This is just kind of clarifying or replacing the hard number that we have in here with, consultation with them and, with the current, recommendations from the,
Yeah.
NFPA.
I think it would feel off other way because, I mean, that's how we've been doing it, the height of the buildings. Well, what you want, come up with an agreement or we're still working on it or whatever, just.
But double check with him and see what he, I think that's fine.
Remind me, what was C all about?
Adopting rules and regulations, because we didn't want to get bogged down in the detail of how to size the, how to design the cisterns. So we said that we would eventually develop rules and regulations where all that information would be provided, as well as what they needed to submit as part of the
So we don't
application.
have them now. We're not proposing to create them now.
So you're
Well,
saying,
but we
we're
know-
giving, basically, it's giving the planning board the authority to
Okay.
create them.
there's not a
Okay.
current standard
That's my
connection to the
question,
tank or something?
No, not yet, we don't know.
Yeah, I
We're
mean,
gonna-
how can we have C if we didn't have the end of B, where the,
Sure.
right?
Right,
I
right,
mean,
right.
C makes the point that we're the final.
Yeah.
So I think when we were looking at examples, I think it was Berlin had 3 or 4 pages in the bylaw of very detailed,
Yes.
and we kind of looked at that, and we said, well, so anytime we want to,
Develop, modify, et cetera.
if anything needs to be changed, we need to go back to town meeting for that, and I think we said, no, we should put that in rules and regs that we can update as needed, if NFPA comes up with, some changes, or if the fire chief says, I'd really like, I'd really like, a 40-inch riser instead of the 32
And
that's
it's
in there
more
now.
that.
It gives us the ability to,
Okay.
with the proper hearing, modify those numbers, and modify the rules and regs.
It's more the chief coming up with something else and saying, this is an additional best practice, than it is changes in NFPA, because we're already covered with NFPA above. So our map is NFPA, but if we want to adopt rules and regs because of whatever reason.
But I think also we were looking at saying, okay, pulling the important information, or kind of
Okay.
straightforward information out of the NFPA,
More detailed.
detail, and, you
We
know.
can adopt.
And we can adopt that as the rules and regs, and as that changes, we can update our rules and regs.
Okay,
And if a developer wants to come in with, you know, they have a fire specialist and they come in with something slightly different, we can evaluate that and go from there. But
Okay.
I think that was what the rules and regs, that's what number C was there for. That we didn't want to bury everything in the bylaw, we wanted the flexibility.
And David, I'll go ahead and just incorporate your changes.
okay.
Does
And
that sound good?
pass them to everybody else so they
Why
can
don't I
look
just
at it.
incorporate both, your language for Article 1 for the inclusionary, and then this, and then that way,
Just forward the email, yeah, if you
Okay.
want to.
okay.
Did I say anything else in that email that I shouldn't?
I think you
Like, I
can
can't
add it to
stand
the.
I think I will, and then that way, and maybe I'll just redline it stuff,
They're all
and you can
idiots.
accept or reject
Yeah,
whatever you want.
Every single one of them.
There's nothing shady there. Yeah. Who wants to talk about marijuana?
Well, based on tomorrow's deadline,
Yes. Oh, good point, yeah. I guess we will be exposed to some degree for a couple
Well,
of
no,
months.
that's just personal use.
They
Yeah,
can't,
that's right.
That has nothing to do with, that has nothing to do with, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the personal use comes into effect tomorrow, and personal growing comes in for tomorrow.
Okay,
The dispensaries, the commercial growers are
20.
at least January of 2018, I think.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah,
And that's only if they don't come up with something before then, right?
if
That, at that date, it automatically triggers to medical dispensaries.
okay.
yeah.
2018 is growers, but what about retail facilities?
I think grow and retail. I think by, I think by the middle of 17, like, you know, June, July of 17, they're supposed to have the
Okay.
CCC in place. Or CCB, CCB.
This was your point last time, I think. So there is a little bit of a period of time where a moratorium or language, whatever you want to do, would be, it's not totally moot.
So my one question on the moratorium is in reading, in reading you'd send out all the language associated with the, with question 4. And if you read through all that, I didn't see any provisions for a moratorium.
No, so I reached out to the AG's office
Okay.
actually, and I asked
Yeah.
that question, and they didn't really say one way or the other. So I think, you know, and I talked to town council actually about, I talked to Brian about this a little bit, and I think other towns are doing this, and this is something that we,
Why would the AG give you,
because it's not, like Mark said, it's not written clearly in
Okay.
the documents.
It's not in what people voted, in the act that people voted on. And I think with
Okay.
medical marijuana, I think it was not there originally, and then they amended it to add that in because towns were kind of freaking out about the whole thing, yeah.
okay,
But it is in there that we could ban the sale and.
where it was not with medical, right?
Although
No,
in the.
it had to do with consuming it on the premises, right? That was.
No, we could ban the sale and manufacture that's not to do with the medical, yeah.
It has to be
That's what I
valid.
thought was in there in
I have it here.
the email that we got from
Brian,
Brian. It didn't sound like we could ban it outright.
really?
I think that was, you could only ban it from consuming it on the premises. Wasn't that what that?
No, that's a whole separate, that's a whole separate thing that requires an actual ballot vote.
Yeah.
Not just town meeting vote, but a ballot vote. And that I think pushes out into 18 as well. But I think in what he had sent, and I didn't bring my copy of the overall language, but it didn't sound in what he had sent that we could, zoning moratorium, temporary prohibit marijuana establishments. I haven't looked at this in a few weeks, so I don't remember some details, but it wasn't clear whether we could ban it outright or whether kind of by default would fall into what's zoned for medical, or not, no, I think we would have to explicitly zone it for medical,
But
although,
we already have our medical
we already have the medical.
We don't need to touch that.
No, and I
I
wouldn't
think at
touch
the end of
that.
the day, it's just not clear at this point, because I'm looking, I have the email from the AG's office with the questions that I had posed, and we'll want to relate, because I had outright asked if we could ban recreational marijuana, and she said, the question of whether a town may ban the commercial sale in town, and if so, the appropriate method of doing so is not clear. I understand the Massachusetts Municipal Lawyers Association will issue some guidance on this question, but this is really one for town council. That's what she basically says. And then one of her last comments is, there is a lot of confusion about the text of the ballot question, and I understand that there may be some attempts to amend it in the coming legislative session. Stay tuned. And then the question about the moratorium, her answer was, many towns have raised the question of a limited moratorium, and I have preliminary discussion with folks internally. I expect that if the moratorium is based on legitimate planning concerns and is for a reasonable period of time, i.e. a year, that this is a bylaw MLU would approve, consistent with our prior decision. So she's making it sound like, yes, it
A year
might-
moratorium.
I would love to do a year.
Yeah,
and
I
I'd love
agree.
to do it because there's so much to think about, there's so much to, I'd love to have a bunch of meetings with town citizens coming in, I'd like to hear people's voice on it.
I'd like to see other people's language.
Yeah, love to see if the sky falls or if the sky doesn't fall, right?
Right,
And let
right.
other towns kind of be the guinea pig, I don't mind saying that. I think that's smart, and we've reached out a little bit to folks in town to effectively say, what are your thoughts, and kind of open up the floodgates a little bit.
Some people strong in each way.
I think some people are strong in each way, and I think at the end of the day, there's nobody that I can find
Yeah.
who says, I want it, I want no regulation, open it out, this should be like.
Yeah.
So, I can't find an argument against a moratorium to buy some time and
Yeah, I think so.
try and figure it out.
I think it's
Yeah.
at
I
least.
think it is pretty
And
split.
that'll give that, yeah, like a 1 year, and that'll give the legislature time to fiddle with it and.
Figure out what's actually in there.
Yeah.
What's the difference between the smoking or the eating?
Right, right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You wouldn't expect the 6-year-olds to be smoking it, but, you know, it could be dangerous if,
Sure. There's a lot of questions. Yeah.
But I'm not sure that we have a lot of control over that, but.
I mean, if it's on private property, I guess that's
Sure,
okay,
yeah.
but.
Sure.
But I don't think we can,
You can't ban edibles.
we can't ban
versus-
edibles but allow smokables.
The sale.
The sale.
The sale of, yeah. Consumption is, yeah,
Yeah.
that is what it is.
I mean, I'm probably against selling, and I'm definitely against the growing facilities, especially because the growing facilities is a big industrial thing.
Water.
With security, well, not even just water, but I mean, there's a lot of,
It's everything we talked about.
there's a lot of runoff that needs to be contained. Then there's the security, I mean, the people who came in here a few years ago talking about grow facilities, how, you know, the security systems, the police need to be tied in, the employees can't wear pockets in their pants, I mean, there's so many ridiculous things. I guess, you know, that is a definite, but then, you know, if you have a sales shop, I do think that the town does get some of that revenue. I forget what it was.
Those are other
We
questions.
can approve.
Yeah.
Do we get tax revenue? Do we get the add-on revenue?
Under the act, we can put in up to a 2% sales, additional sales
Yeah.
tax.
Yeah, you commented on that.
Yeah.
So I'm not necessarily,
And
I'm not
there's
necessarily,
another clause in there that if there are expenses directly related to the facility, you know, to
Security,
the-
whatever it is, yeah.
Whatever it is, yeah, so if, you know, they went in at Cobham, or, you know, and that became where, you know, I think that's part of the medical marijuana zone. But if somebody went in there and we said, well, because of increased traffic, we need to put a light in there.
Yeah.
Or even just
Yeah.
a blinking light or caution or something. I think the way it's written, we could pass those expenses on to the shop. But we couldn't
Second
say.
police station in
but-
the extreme, whatever.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, we have to document that there's an
Yeah,
expense
that's why
there
we're doing
and all of
it.
that.
So in the end, I think I'd probably be for banning the sale of it just because of the hassle, but there is an argument for it with the revenue you would get. And, I mean, there's an argument to be had, and, you know,
I mean,
it needs to be
again,
looked at
I
fully.
mean, you know, there's, I mean, you know, on Facebook, there was a lot of people for it, a lot of people against
Right,
it.
yeah.
A lot of people that just said, you kind of said whatever.
Yeah.
You know, if it's there, it's there, I'm, you know, it's not gonna
Yep.
encourage me to smoke or not smoke
Yeah.
or whatever.
I mean, if we were to do
You know.
anything, you know, like I said, I would be totally against the production of it. And I could potentially be swayed on the sale of it.
But see,
but
everybody
it's-
in town is.
But yeah, so I'd like to look at,
I mean, my take would be that we take what we currently have zoned for medical, which I think meets all of the offsets and everything. that
That's a
people want.
discussion, I know. That was
But
my-
what-
And just, you know, allow commercial and allow the adult entertainment in there, and that's our
I mean,
red light district.
that's pretty much
and
just.
we're done.
So we did adult
It ended up just being, what, Paragon and Cobham, right? No, Paragon and Kane, because Cobham was too close to Bolton Woods
No,
Way.
Cobham is in there too.
There's a
That was-
third, we, know- I know we did a third, because
Yeah.
that was a
It's
good
Cobham.
point. Okay.
Because
So
there
this
was
is-
a debate whether it was 500 feet or 750
Yeah,
feet. If it had
yeah.
been 750 feet, it would have, we would have been able to include Cobham, but we didn't want to do the, fall under spot zoning, so we
So
changed
what
it to
was it?
500.
What was
It was, it's 500, Cobham, well, it's Cobham and Paragon for sure. I would have to look.
We also gotta remember, though, we gotta, I mean, there's still neighbors in that area. We
Was
gotta-
it Skinner? I thought
It was probably
people-
Skinner,
I
right?
think it was people, because people
No, I
up in the
don't
neighborhood
know.
behind there who,
I mean, you're like talking
I-
about creating a red light district. I mean, it doesn't really fit a Bolton Woods Way, you know?
I really think it
Fair
falls.
Martha.
It's not really fair. Martha. She's gonna have to put up with those TVs on the gas station pumps.
Nah, very quiet. on
I
that gas
mean,
station front.
I still don't think, according to this, that we can't ban it outright. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
just
discussion.
send it to go into.
Yeah, I think pushing for a one-year moratorium.
I think that's good.
I like it.
And it sounds like it's allowed.
Yeah,
We can see how
as long as
things,
it's
we can see how
allowed,
things shake out.
Then, yeah, and then we can, but I think we do need to, if we get the moratorium, we still need to be planning for, you know, a year later when it.
Because realistically, we're not gonna, I don't think we'll see much happen next
I
year.
would also, on the selling of it, I'd be a lot more comfortable if it was completely federally, if it was more, you know, because there's no money transfer, so these are all like cash shops, so that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
It's
It's a whole nother thing, yeah.
it's not gonna happen with Sessions as the AG, so.
Yeah.
No, it might turn the other way now.
Yeah, exactly.
Where did, you probably told us, where did this language come from?
This is from Lieutenant Dennis.
Cool.
This is what they're.
Oh, you did tell us that,
So
yeah.
I just copied and pasted it.
So this is their
They were on the
moratorium.
forefront.
They were definitely on
Medical.
the, yeah, they were definitely on the forefront. And then the only thing I'll modify then is under Part C, because they're calling for a 2-year moratorium. I'll just change that to 2018 and not 2019. No, 2018.
You did it right,
Right, yeah.
Do you want to talk about driveway? My thought on adult
Sorry,
use.
excuse me,
Yeah.
what was the adult uses thing? Are we gonna have
Our red light district, yeah.
I don't know if it, for me, I don't know if it's thought out enough to do it this year.
So currently, it would be allowed under special permit.
There's
say-
nothing against adult uses.
There's no additional regulation, let me put it that way. So,
Today, yep.
you know, in talking with Larry Delaney and talking with Don Lowe, you know, they have just sort of recommended that maybe the town be better protected when it comes to adult uses. And so that's why I'm bringing it forward to planning board saying, maybe we should be looking at
Don't we
this.
put in the special permits, no adult uses, one use that's not
No,
allowed?
you're probably thinking of the overlay district for the mixed use.
So in the overlay, it's not allowed?
Right, but there's nothing in our scheduled permitted uses that talks about adult uses being only, actually, yeah, being regulated to certain areas or anything like that.
I'm not sure if you can outright ban them,
You can't, but you can.
but
you
we can
regulate them.
regulate where they go.
I personally, I'm not concerned by it, but I'm open to listening to other folks.
A solution in search of a problem.
Yeah, I can't,
That's where I am.
I don't see it being an issue.
Potentially not, I mean, I'm just, you know, what if Frank Patterson were to sell 626, you know, tomorrow, and then the next owner wanted to put it in a retail store. You'd have to go through the
I
special
mean,
permit
I
process.
just don't know.
But you couldn't outright ban it.
I don't know that the population or the numbers and the people who would be going to the target audience. I don't think the target audience is here, so I don't think anybody would want to come here. Personally.
Within Bolton or traveling through Bolton?
I mean, even so, so somebody from Lancaster on their way to work in Malden. Yeah. So when did this happen? I just don't see it. I just don't see it being a concern. Like you said, it's a solution to a problem that's not there. Yeah.
But are they talking just about printed materials or
believe
pole
so.
dancing, you know?
Yeah.
It could be anything.
Any of those.
Well, the no
Could be
discotheque, the no discotheques, that's just.
That's only the overlay.
I would think pole dancing is,
What about
you know,
escorts?
is pole dance an accessory to? I don't know.
All right, so it
It's
sounds
all fun and
like
games until
adult
somebody gets
uses
hurt.
is on the back burner. Okay, we'll take that off.
Do you want to talk to us about driveways?
Yes, so, what I'm recommending or proposing, and this has actually been sort of the protocol in Bolton since I started as town planner, is that existing driveways where there's tear downs, DPW requests that the driveways be brought up to code. But technically, if you look at our bylaw, there's nothing in there that really requires it. It's
Okay.
more a recommendation. So at this point, and I agree with Harold when it comes to our rural back roads where we don't have a lot of drainage systems and it's just collecting on the road.
Yeah.
I think it's beneficial, it would behoove us to make homeowners handle the runoff on their own property rather than having it.
So even a single residential driveway we're talking about?
Yes, but that's, any new house has to meet that requirement. It's not like.
Any new road
Right, so
cut
this
does.
would only apply, so this is just modifying it so that now tear downs where someone's coming in and maybe tearing down a small keep and putting up a little McMansion has to then make sure that their driveway's in conformance as well.
Now, it doesn't have
I
to be
think it's
paved.
fair. It
It
doesn't have to be paved. It can
This
be-
is just a
This-
drainage.
You just
it's
can't
really-
expel the water
It really
onto the
comes
road,
down
yeah.
to drainage and slope because it can't be, I think it's more than 10%
Okay.
slope within the first, I think it's like, I should have to, actually,
Yeah, but
we
from,
have the regulation.
excuse me, from setbacks though, if you tore down the house, you're building a new one, I would think that the new driveway should conform to the 20-foot side setback or all the other setbacks. I mean, if they've torn the old house down, it's not pre-existing, why should the driveway be pre-existing?
I think that's her argument.
Yeah.
Yeah, that-
I don't know.
But right now, there's not a,
For
it's not part
setbacks
of the.
and drainage.
Yeah.
So the current, so when a new house is built, a new single lot house, we have a bylaw or that's part of the building code for driveways, for public way
We have a
access?
driveway bylaw, but it only addresses new construction.
Greenfield, yeah.
And so that addresses the drainage and the slope and all that.
Correct.
But if it's a tear down, I guess the practice is we run them through the rigor, but there's nothing written down in our code that says you must bring it up to code.
Exactly, yeah, so it's, the slope is 10% within the first 20
I mean, I
feet.
guess I see no problem with that. It's if it's like building a new house.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
They tear down the old one.
That's
I mean, I think it's fair. The only, I think concern I would have is if we're looking at new subdivisions where
Yeah,
there's these stormwater management systems designed to handle the runoff from the driveways as well as the public, you know, what would be the public road.
that's a rare circumstance.
So
because it's a-
Century Mill Estates,
it's a
this has come up
teardown
many times on
within.
Century Mill
Yeah, we
Estates
talked about
where
this many times.
Harold doesn't want the runoff from the roads going to the roads at Century Mill Estate, even though the stormwater management system can handle it.
That's how it was designed.
Where did we end with those conversations?
At this point, they still have to meet our bylaw, so they
Got it.
can't drain to the road.
Okay.
And so he was gonna have to tear up, oh no, he was gonna have to add French drains or something to the edge of the
So
drain.
yes, and right now.
Even though we felt it wasn't in the
driveways that-
design, it didn't need
A
it.
swale or, and his argument was the thing won't work. The system won't work
'Cause-
unless you put it under
Right, because
use.
he was saying they have,
Wasn't he saying that unless you actually use the system and
So
run
if the
water
road is
through it,
designed
it won't work
properly, if the road is crowned properly, is that the proper word? Crowned? If it's crowned properly, you should be able to drain out onto the road,
That was Andy's argument.
Whereas if he adds these French drains, they're just gonna clog over time, and then it's,
But that
Yeah.
could be, in terms of maintenance, I mean, that could be the same issue with the drainage system on
Okay.
the road. I mean, they
Okay.
all need to be maintained. I mean, the way that it's working in Century Mill now is that they do these trench drains at the end of the driveway, and then they just tie that into the stormwater system somewhere downstream, so.
Wait, so it's going into.
Which is fine, because the whole reason for not having it drain to the road is because for ponding and potential icing. Harold doesn't want to have to deal with the added runoff. That's really what it comes down to. Even though it's graded to go to the catch basin, his argument is 10, 15 years from now, there's going to be potholes, there's going to be, the grading's going to change over time.
yeah, so you can't just.
Even though the town still has to, maintain the roads.
If we agree, if we had a layer of pavement, it would mess up,
Yeah.
you'd now get ponding at the end of every driveway and things like that if you're not, if it's not designed
Sure.
for it. So I think that's, a lot of things like that kind of come into it, so. But I mean, I think, on tear downs or any, really, you could get around that by keeping part of one wall up, and that it's no longer a tear down, but we'd still want it to be, so I don't know whether we can extend this to, tear down or, substantial change to an existing.
Yeah, what's the language? Is tear down an official term?
Tear down is a term, I don't know if it's, yeah, the demolition would be the better word, yeah.
I would use that.
Yeah, demolition of that.
But if somebody buys a small cottage and then adds a couple thousand square feet to it, do you want to?
Yeah, if they keep the foundation, but do the rest.
Keep the back wall, but
How many people does that actually apply to?
Very few people are gonna come in
Very
and
good.
keep
No.
one wall or a foundation.
Yeah,
Most people that are coming in,
I'd keep it tear down. I like it.
Yeah.
Just-
Or demolition, whatever the
demolition,
word
I
is,
think
yeah.
demolition is a
Okay.
good word.
So you'll work on some language?
It'll be literally just probably,
Easy.
just like a sentence that gets
No,
added.
I think it's fine.
And then you just will need to weigh in whether or not you want subdivisions that have the stormwater management systems to be part of that.
And that's a very rare circumstance, to have a new subdivision, but a
We could name
tear down
probably,
within.
yeah, we could name probably all the subdivisions at this point that it would apply to. I mean, Century Mill, Fox Run Road,
Holden?
But would it be?
The point is, it would be
those?
way in the future,
Oh,
right?
it would be in
okay.
the,
All
exactly,
right, yeah.
way in
Not
the
tear it
future.
down.
Well, the reason why we're having the discussion is because eventually they're gonna wanna make the roads public, and then Harold's not gonna.
Did this have to happen on Norse? Is that what kind of problem?
No, this did not get prompted by Norris. This
Okay.
got prompted by,
Yeah, that was a tear down, that was a comment.
by a driveway on South Bolton Road.
Oh, yep, sure, okay, yeah, sure.
And they pushed
Big
back.
pitch too.
Mhm, And
Yeah.
they said, and I had to agree with them, because they're right, it's not in our bylaw.
Yeah,
No, we can recommend it, and most people are
There's actually a
very
few houses
amenable
on
to
that
the
street.
recommendation, but
there'll be a few tear downs on that road. Okay, what's the budget? I'm gonna cut my salary.
Bye, Martha.
See you, Martha.
Good night, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Happy New Year.
You get an email about it.
We had an adult use bylaw and a marijuana bylaw in there.
Overload the service.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, so, I mean, we talked about this, you're saying, oh, the moratorium of marijuana, but.
Everybody thought you were approving.
Right.
You were welcoming.
Right, we were doing a moratorium, I think it was, we were doing a moratorium, like, why do we want this in this
It
town?
was when you did the
So
zone.
Facebook,
Yeah.
post. Are you on
Yeah,
this
oh, we're
page?
just zoning,
Yeah, that's when everyone tweaked out.
Well, no, we have
What's
to
the
do
one
it,
that we
yeah.
always talk about?
Bolton
Bolton Mass Community?
something like
Oh,
that.
you gotta join, it's
I
fun.
know, I need to.
You see this kid over here, this kid.
Really like the town's input on it.
No, I think it's good.
I like to see the, I like to see the people that work.
The
it brings everybody up.
Are we approving or are we just reviewing?
Pretty much reviewing,
Okay.
I mean, the budget's pretty much staying the same.
Okay.
The only thing that's been added, and this is in discussion with Don Lowe, for under dues, that number has gone, the budget for that has gone up because since I've been here, I've never been responsible for paying the magic dues. For some reason, that was taken out of planning, and Don had been covering that, but essentially it should go under planning, so we put it back.
What's magic again? I know you're...
It's a subgroup of MAPC, so it's a regional planning group,
Okay.
and it's essentially the surrounding towns. and-
So it keeps you connected with surrounding
Yes.
towns and
Yep,
in
yeah.
some form or something?
Yeah, and sometimes we have regional projects together, and
3% raise, we can't get you like a 5% raise?
No, I double those wages. Just add whatever you want on the wages.
okay.
We'll just let it, we'll just let it.
Advisory.
Yeah, you're, no advisory and talk.
Yeah.
Good luck.
So, and then for advisory, I typically provide them with a breakdown of what the budget's covering, so that way they feel comfortable with it. and-
Just add a little extra on top and see what they say.
Okay.
They make you pay for pens? Oh, no, we already charge them for pens.
Looks fine to me. Do selectmen get paid?
I think there is a
There's some,
small.
Yeah, there's like $300.
I wanna talk to you-
But traditionally.
Erica, I want to talk to you about your use of
Most of
pens.
us waive for.
60 pens in a year? That is,
Gotta get that down to 55.
that is very excessive. Yeah, I mean, we cut that.
That covers all the developers that come in
Right.
and write something.
Get one of those
Yeah.
on the chain.
I only got 5 pens left this year.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.